All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are officially live with the first ever FunderPro live stream. My friends, how are you guys doing? I'm here with, by the way, my name is Tyler Davis. I'm here with Kyron and Brian. If you guys want to introduce yourselves.
Yeah, my name is Kyron Eidelberg. Been trading in the markets for about 4 years, and I'm excited to be here with you guys.
Yeah, my name is Brian. I'm excited too. Off and on day trading for 10 to 12 years, but loving this with FunderPro right now, and looking forward to doing this program with you guys.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Well, if you guys are tuning in to the first stream, we are super happy to have you. I have been trading for about 3 years. I think we all trade a little bit differently. I think Kyron and Brian both trade a lot of gold. I trade mostly NAS 100 or the NASDAQ. I keep an eye on all of the US indices pretty much when I'm trading. The big news that we have, I guess, last night was the USA elections. We found out Trump was going to be president. The indexes, NAS, SPX, US 30, they all got a pretty big pump, pretty big move up overnight. So that's what I'll be watching today. What are you guys keeping an eye on?
So currently, I'm looking at the gold markets at EUR. These are the two pairs that I currently look at. Early this morning, I actually missed a great opportunity not being focused on the charts here. As you can see on the daily time frame here for gold, we had this huge gap to the downside here. And last night, after it was announced that Trump was going to be our president, we seen a spike for gold, and we've seen that spike continue out here through the London and the New York session. So I trade the New York session and, pre-New York. And so what I was looking at early on was that we had this bearish structure here. So price had just broken through a key low. I like this move to the downside. We corrected and then made another push to the downside that broke this area here. I wanted to see a retest and this move down. I would have loved this entry off of this 5-minute candle for a continuation down. And how I set my take profit would have simply been off of this daily retest structure here. So what I'm looking at now for gold is just how we react in this current area. Is this an area where we're going to see a larger time frame flip and continue into the daily swing to the upside, or will we see this continuation of this corrective structure here to the downside? I think gold is at a deciding point in the markets, and so what I'll be looking for is, do we see lower lows and lower highs continue? A lot of volume to the downside here early on for today. So I'm not looking to fight against this volume. I would look to continue going to the downside, but where we're at currently, I would need to see some, smaller time frame confirmation.
Yeah, I agree. So you're looking for shorts on gold. It's kind of going to be your focus for today. And like what you said, after such a big move, I'm looking the same thing. Not necessarily shorts. I'm looking for longs. But after such, I'm going to switch to my screen here. After such a big move on the NAS overnight, let me zoom out a little bit here. I'm on the 5-minute time frame. So we also had this massive move up overnight. See all the way here. So after such a big move, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit of digestion of this move in the morning. So basically what I mean by that is just some consolidation, some choppier action in the morning. Now I could be totally wrong. We could open New York here and just continue to run or start to erase on this move, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit of digestion first. It will be interesting to see. It's the first time I've ever traded an election. So I'm very, very curious to see how it will play out. I have a level here on NAS. I get my levels from the hourly chart, and this is a level, it's right 25.9590. So I'm going to be watching for reactions to that. Basically above that level, if we can open above that level and retest it and get back above the New York opening print, I will look for longs. If we reject this level and get back underneath the New York opening print, I will start looking for more of a short play to kind of erase some of this overnight move. So should be an interesting day. How about you, Brian? What are you looking at today? Anything in particular? Can you hear me, Brian? We lost Brian's audio, I think. Can you hear him, Brian?
I think I'm good now.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, we got you back.
Sorry about that. But going off what Kyron said, tracking gold and on a higher time frame with the 4 hour or the daily, but on the 4 hour, it was already into a pullback during the some of the decisive moments of the election. So actually, back during late Asia market last night for me and pre-London, I did do a trade. Catching it. It was already doing a pullback, so I went ahead and shorted it. Wasn't my necessarily the setup I like to do, but I basically just went in with momentum, and it was a very common sense move. A selection of anybody at that point put some decisiveness into the U.S. and it's going to pump up the USD. It's going to drop the gold value. Safe havens drop it, and that's what I basically did. But it was a nice 5K run for myself on a short. Took it probably 100 pips. But overall, I was going to, Tyler, on your chart there, what are you looking at when New York opens as far as time frame? Are you going into a 15-minute?
So I actually will keep an eye on the 2-minute, 5-minute, and 15-minute. I mean, I watch pretty much all the time frames. Like, I'm aware of where we're at on the daily chart, the weekly chart.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will watch the hourly. And the hourly for me is super important. Like I said, that's where I get my levels from. Basically, hourly changes of trend is how I find my you could call them support and resistance levels.
Mm-hmm.
But the way I do it, I get like a very specific price. So instead of it being like a support and resistance zone, it's a specific price that I use. I'll watch the hourly. The hourly is very important to me. If I could only trade off of one time frame, if you said you only get one, it would be the hourly. But I watch them all in conjunction with each other. If I'm looking for more of an aggressive entry, I'll use a 2-minute entry. But most of the time, I'm taking kind of like a 2 and a 5-minute entry, right? Where I like the way that the 2-minute is setting up, and I'm anticipating the 5-minute to do something. And then I'll manage those off the 15-minute as well. So I watch them all. Like I said, I'm going to stay patient this morning. I want to see the market play out a little bit. I may even stay hands off for the first hour, at least the first 15, 30 minutes, just to see kind of what happens. And then I'll look to take some sort of trade. But yeah, I pulled up Bitcoin here. I was just curious, after the election results, I know Trump has talked very pro crypto, and see Bitcoin made a nice move up overnight. I don't know if you guys are into the cryptos at all, whether it's long term or trading. I don't trade them at all, but I think it's interesting.
Yeah, I definitely do have crypto that I hold long term. I don't actively trade the crypto markets, but in terms of Bitcoin, I do hold Bitcoin. But I want to ask, well, for one, I want to mention, Tyler, how you capitalize and how you explain how you capitalize is kind of similar to my own in, monitoring all the time frames and then executing on the smaller time frames, and then, modifying positions based on a larger time frame. Then you take your, let's say, your entry. I want to ask here, though, has anybody else in the chat, you guys all in the chat, have y'all taken any trades today? I see one person said he lost his account today. That's unfortunate. I wonder, why or how? What do you think? What can you learn from that? What happened in the trade? Was it that you over risked? Was it that you were coming close to your stop loss in your account? I want to know kind of what happened there, because I think it's important to learn and grow from your losses. It's an unfortunate to lose an account, and as traders, we all feel that pain, but to learn from it and to progress through it. So Rodolfi says not yet. Yes, a couple. So a couple have already taken trades. I would have loved to have gotten that gold position this morning. So I am on the sidelines currently coming into this session. Kind of like you, I just want to be patient and just let the markets play out a little bit.
Yeah, I took a small MNQ trade last night before I went to bed, just because I saw the market was starting to pump.
How'd that go?
and I just was playing NQ a little bit on my futures account to catch up. So made a few $100, closed it, went to sleep. I wish I would just held it and let it ride all night.
Can you show it to us? Can you pull it up? Is there a way you can
Yeah.
pull it up?
So if you,
Or just like the breakdown?
yeah, to be honest with you, it was nothing. I'm gonna pull up the 5-minute chart here. So it was nothing too crazy. Let's see, time frame here. So this happened. Let's see where. So okay, market open here, right? And I was kind of paying attention to the election coverage and just kind of keeping an eye on the markets more for entertainment purposes than anything. And you can see right here is where the market essentially opened, right? So for me, I'm in New York, so this is 6 p.m. my time, and this would be this price right here is what I would consider to be the kind of the either the overnight or just the opening print for the day, right? So the opening print is a level that I use in the markets. I consider the opening print to be important because if you look at it from a daily chart perspective, if we're trading above the opening print, we're currently putting in a green bar on the daily chart. Well, if we're currently putting in a green bar in the daily chart, I would prefer to be long. I want to be trading with the trend of the daily chart. And if we're below the opening print, we're currently putting in a red bar on the daily chart. And I want to be trading with the trend the way I trade. So to me, the opening print is a very important level. If you stick to longs above the opening print and shorts below the opening print, that's just like a standard rule of thumb that like you're normally then trading with the daily trend. It's a good rule of thumb to have, especially if you're a newer trader who struggles with trying to fight the trend. You know what I mean? So anyway, this price here was our opening print. Like I said, I was also watching the ES or SPX, and I was also watching YM or US 30. And the NASDAQ was actually lagging behind a little bit. If I pull up US 30, and the New York session is about to open here, so I can stop rambling here soon. But US 30 had already started making a very strong move, and so had SPX. So as I was watching this on NAS had just gotten back above the overnight opening print, and it gave us this little 5-minute kind of retest that held. So I just took an NQ entry above the opening print here on this kind of 5-minute retest and just caught once we got this big push. I made my money quick and just called it and
that's a nice trade.
Yeah, it was just real simple, just playing momentum, right? Just not fighting the momentum. And yeah, so that's what we did. That's what we took last night.
So what is your favorite, like I guess you could say currency or index to trade?
Definitely the NAS. It just for one, I like a little bit more volatility, which it has more than like SPX. US 30 also has a lot of volatility. But I also just think that like the current state of the world with AI and all that stuff, the NAS being the tech index, I just like it in terms of like that too. I think it's like the index that everyone's kind of looking at that has the most future potential as being strong with all the tech names that are here and all the AI stuff that's going on. So between the volatility and just kind of like that just fundamental factor, I just like to trade it.
Got you. So Brian, what do you trade?
Go ahead.
I am gold. If you guys, as long as you guys can still hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Gold, I have been practicing with the indexes in NAS in particular. And I know we've talked about it backstage, recently. But overall, gold is what brought me into as a professional trader recently. So in learning supply and demand with that has just been a truly, turnaround thing for myself. I might pop in a confluence here and there with the moving average just to make sure I'm, my interpretation of a trend is correct, or if it's teetering with an immediate change. But I favor gold right now. I like its calm movements. I think it has predictability during news events. I find its setups go in and out of supply and demand and support and resistance so much that I don't feel trapped to a particular session or time period of the day. And Kyrene, you might feel the same. You trade gold. That was what attracted me to gold early on, was the number of movements it could actually do in the day. Now, of course, you watch it from a daily 4-hour, 1 hour, 30-minute, 15-minute charts, but if you zoom in and you execute off the 5 and 15, for some anywhere from 40 to 100 pip moves, it just proves that if I miss something, it helps me exercise the patience of waiting, right? The discipline of waiting for the next trade.
Yeah, I hear that.
And it definitely, so it gives me a feeling of, I didn't miss out, there's always something coming next. Now, I know that you could say that with every stock, every other piece of Forex out there, but I just understand gold's, performance better. And for now, I'm learning others in Forex. Forex is still generally new to me. I've only been tinkering with it for about 12 months now. I like to be married to one, and I think trading is a lot like, marriage or dating. Date around, you never gonna really know somebody, but if you lock into one, you might learn the relationship with a little bit better.
Yeah, no, I hear that.
I hear that. So, but a lot, that's also just interesting for any viewers out there. Like, what are folks trading primarily when it comes to Forex? What are they?
What are you guys trading? I see someone said, does anyone trade US30? I've been looking to add either NAS 100 or US30 to my watch list, but I don't actively trade, either of the two. I'm looking to trade one of the two because I'm looking to add futures into my portfolio and to not just be trading on the CFD side of things. But
I will trade US30. Like I said, when I'm trading, I like to watch all the indexes at the same time. And so I normally will trade NAS, but depending on the setup, the risk to reward, which one, if NAS or US30 is currently at one of my price levels, I will take trades on US30 if I think the setup's better than NAS.
Yeah, everybody drop your favorite, indice or currency to pair to trade. I see Suffolk says Nas in the DAX. Everybody loves Nas, and I'm telling you, I am going to add Nas into my watch list.
Yes, definitely not.
I just like the volume in terms of the structure.
Yeah.
I see a lot of
strong out the gate. It's strong out the gate right now.
And and to both you guys' point, and maybe more Tyler, the fundamentals of it. We all use technical analysis to trade, but when you're following the fundamentals, the news, anything like that, I personally see a stronger reaction to the US30 and to the NAS 100. That I could be wrong. You could disagree with me there, but I just see a different element that makes the blood flow on those indexes. I said a few minutes ago, I feel like gold is slower moving. I like that.
It's hard for me to say because I don't really actively trade gold. But yeah, I would agree. And from like a fundamental standpoint too, right? Like you said, we all trade off of technical analysis, but and sometimes in the Forex world, I don't think people think about this or get talked about this, right? But what the NAS is the NASDAQ, which is made up of a group of individual stocks and equities, right? So like when you're trading the NAS, what you're trading is a group of Apple, Nvidia, Amazon, like these companies that right? So like, yes, the intraday price movements, aren't necessarily like I know some people when they're trading SPX or the trading NAS, they're actively also watching Apple and seeing what it does, because there's a correlation there, right?
Yeah.
So
Gotcha.
yeah, that's something that I don't think gets talked a whole lot about in Forex. But yeah, so for me, there is like a fundamental just underlying to that, where it's like, okay, like I had several trades this week where I took longs on NAS during like the Asia session and just let them work, because I was watching the earnings reports of big tech names, right? Like I saw like we had Tesla earnings last week. We had Meta earnings. We had, all these companies had these earnings reports, and you can see the reactions to their earnings reports. The stocks would either jump a bunch or they'd crash a bunch. And that gives you a pretty good confluence then to come and take a trade in the NAS, knowing that there's that correlation there. So I was able to be green every day last week, basically just by taking sympathy trades on NAS off of big tech earnings.
Got you. I see someone says that they trade USD JPY. He said, I have a 9 to 5 and it just fits perfect to me. And I think that that's important too. Just having trading whatever asset is moving when you can trade it. I think that that's timing, something that's not talked about as much. If we take a look here, if I could share my screen, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Here, let me switch you real quick, Kyron. And I just, before you finish, Kratos, any plans on the FunderPro futures? FunderPro futures is coming. It should be live, from what I understand, before the end of the year. Don't hold me to that, because I know they're on the back end trying to sort things out, and that stuff can take longer than expected. But the plan is to launch FunderPro futures before the end of the year, hopefully. But it's coming one way or the other. It's coming within the next few months. So yeah, I think they have a sign up list or sign up wait list that's currently active. It's probably the link in the bio. I might even be able to get it and share it with you in the comments. So if you guys want to sign up for like early access to FunderPro futures, I'll see if I can get that.
That's awesome.
But sorry, Kyron, go ahead.
No worries. So to talk about what someone asked, he said, how do you suggest to trade high volatile news? And I actually have a way in which I trade high volume news, and it's similar to the move that you've seen today. So what we had is an impulsive move to the downside, right? We have this huge 1 hour candle here. If you take a look there, we have this huge 1 hour candle. Now this is coming in to the New York session, so we're expecting the volume to continue for the New York session. If we take a look here on the daily time frame, we know that we have a gap to the downside here, right? So this is where where I personally would set my target and area of interest. And how I go about it in high volume times is, you don't want to take necessarily your profit at this area, but after you start to get a correction or a rejection, because in these high volume news events, in high volume news times, we want to let those are going to be essentially your highest risk to reward trades. So I don't want to ever cut a trade too early when the volume or the structure hasn't indicated. So though I would have had my area of interest for my target to be here, how I would have executed is, after that 1 hour candle closed as this bearish 1 hour candle, this is indicative of what's circled here. We got a break of a low, right? We got a break of a low at the start of the new 1 hour candle. It's going to form a top wick, because we already closed below a key structural level on this 1 hour time frame. So we closed below this level here with this high volume bearish candle. The next candle, if we're expecting for price to continue down with volume in the session, which is generally what happens when you have these high volume news events, and you'll see this be similar of NFP, CPI, these different events as well, because I trade them the same exact way. So we'll dial down to this smaller time frame on this 5 minute, and I want to see a shift. So we see a low get created, we break a previous structural low, and then a correction into what I call my key retest zone. And why is my key retest zone? Because if price breaks through this level here, Now it invalidates this area, and we could start to see a larger time frame correction, similar to what happened to me on Monday, I believe, with EUR USD, and I'll break that down, you know, at a later note. But where I would have wanted to enter at is off of this bearish reaction after a correction for breaking this low here to continue with that volume. So this would have normally been my target here with a stops above this candle. But how I capitalize on high volume news, you don't want to take profits early. So I would close at the first sign of rejection. So for me personally, it would come after the first bearish candle to close after tapping into this level. We tap into this level, this candle pushes up but closes bearish. This candle continues to close bearish. This candle closes bullish. This is likely where I would have looked to pull profits after reaching my level, just to max out that kind of risk to reward. And yes, price does continue to push to the downside here. I'm not looking to be greedy. I'm just looking to, you know, make the most of this volume. And so that's how I would go about trading, you know, high volume news events. Just high volume in general. You kind of have to dial down to that smaller time frame to see that smaller time frame structure so that you can be able to execute, because price is moving so fast. So I think just to talk a little bit about that, that's how I would go about trading high volume news events.
I think it's good advice. The one other thing I would say to that is size down, right?
Yeah,
Trading,
of course,
you're trading a volatile market, you need less size to make money because the moves are bigger. Size it down. And also, while that was happening, I gotta say, guys, I had to do it. I took the first trade. I took the first trade on the FunderPro. I hopped in some SPX longs.
All right.
As you can see where my stop loss is here. Basically, what I'm looking at is kind of SPX to play a little bit of catch up. US 30 and the NAS are both strong out of the gate, and SPX is a little bit lagging behind. We had a little bit of a failure on a 2-minute sell, so we're underneath the opening print here. It could fail, but I had to do it. I wanted to be the first one. I wanted to be the first one to take a trade on the screen. And watch, it's probably gonna stop me out of here, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
No, are any of the viewers currently in a trade with especially with that one? That's
we had to put a little risk on the table, right? This education we're giving is good, but we had to get a little risk on the table, right? By the way, if you're wondering, I'm currently trading this is a FunderPro 25K fast track account. Coming into the day, I think I was up like $175 or so on the account. And this trade, I am risking $230 about.
That sounds good.
But not working out in my favor so far. We'll see if it holds or not.
One of the viewers, Sarky, has a good question there about large institution investors on how they approach, an election period differently than retail traders. Do you guys have an opinion on that? I mean, obviously they're going to do some kind of liquidity grab.
Yeah,
we don't go through election cycles enough to, be experts necessarily.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys if anybody follows Burns Skorupinski. But he posted a video yesterday. Burns, a well-known prop firm trader on social media, but he posted a video yesterday. I guess this theory comes from some sort of trader or economist back in the 1960s. I don't know what the name of the person is, but basically he said that the way election cycles typically work is that when there's a new president elected, the first 2 years, the market kind of pulls back or consolidates because that politician is getting into office and they're kind of taking care of all the favors that they owe and doing, kind of paying people back with the people who fund their campaigns, all that sort of stuff, right? And then the third year of an election cycle, so year 3 and 4, the market then starts to ramp back up, being that the candidate wants to improve their chances of being reelected. So I thought that was an interesting explanation of just market cycles in general, and which it just makes sense from a common sense standpoint as well. Guys, I did it. I officially I sacrificed myself. I thought I'll take the first L. I'll hop on stream. I'll take the first loss. You know,
Look, that's a part of the game.
That's it.
Me,
That's it. There.
I have
My
to.
risk was managed. My risk was managed. I'm okay with that. No,
That's
no harm.
important. So how much did you risk, or how much in
But
terms
that,
of
I
percentage?
I was up 170. It's a 25K account. I was up $175 on the account. I put $230 worth of risk on that trade. So I had 0.15 lots.
Okay, so how I
But I kind of broke
generally
my rules in a sense. I didn't want to take a trade that early. I wanted to see how things would play out a little bit, and I got a little antsy.
and hey, look, it's a good lesson. It's a good
For sure.
for everybody, you know,
Yeah.
because I get that a lot. In terms of your percentage though, because I don't always like to talk in dollar amounts because
Mhm.
I think it could
Yeah.
be an emotional attachment to dollar amounts. And you know, everybody's account size is different. So in terms of how much you risk, how much did you risk percent wise of
Mhm.
your account? Because I generally risk about 0.5 to 1%. In
Yeah.
the challenge 1% until I get under a certain until I either pass the account or I get under a certain level, generally 50%, then I'll cut it back to 0.5, build the account back up, and then
Yeah.
essentially
I
start it.
completely agree with that. You know, when I hear people speak in terms, say you're talking NAS and you're not familiar with it, and they're talking pips, for example. I speak pips all the time with gold, but I should break the habit of that because I think speaking in percentages is so much better. That and it's a healthy way to even think to yourself, right?
Yeah.
Think sharing with folks a dollar amount. Even I'm guilty of that. I did that earlier when we started the show, but percentage wise, yeah. So earlier, I did good last night with the election. I had I guess roughly a 2% gain, 2.5% gain on a 200K. But and I want to add something there, and plus, and kind of touch on something I'm seeing here and there in the chat. At FunderPro TV, I think what the goal here is to do, you're not going to see us always doing, trade after trade after trade. This is about reading the market, seeing what it's doing, helping others gain a sense of community, right, guys? It might be slow moving at times, but that's part of the game.
Yeah.
We want to help. Maybe we can discuss strategies here. I wouldn't want any viewers to get impatient. We can certainly go through styles of trading, stop loss, risk management. I think as long as the folks in the chat here just keep the questions coming so we can keep the topics flying. I think is a good deal.
Yeah, and I
Sure.
agree 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's good. Yeah, definitely the focus that we want to have here is just on education, community. We definitely aren't looking at this as like a signals stream or anything like that. It's just about kind of creating that resource for you guys, that sense of community, and I think that's an awesome thing to have as a trader for sure.
Yeah.
The question is Free Fire. You said the video quality is very poor. Nothing can see. It's very low resolution video. How can you teach us? Do you mean like the stream quality resolution is very poor? Does like everybody else agree with that? Is the stream coming through with low resolution, or does it look decent for everybody else? And yeah, the index is a nice NAS with a nice push out of the gate, but a pretty harsh failure. Back underneath the opening print here. All the indexes starting to get a pretty decent pullback. What's here, Kyron? I'll throw you up on the stage here. What's gold looking like?
So gold is creating lower lows and lower highs. We're coming off of a previous 15-minute bearish close. What time is it currently? It's 9:51. So we're looking about this 1 hour to be closing here in the next 8 minutes or so, and it's looking like it's going to close as a bearish candle. So what I'm anticipating currently is if we're going to see a continuation and a break of that low, kind of like how we've seen here where we see volume continue to the downside. I want to see if that next 1 hour candle can give us some sort of correction to a structural level on the smaller time frame, which is this would be my area of interest. I was looking at it here on the smaller time frame, seeing that if it already had formed this, you know, correction that I'm looking at here for this move to the downside and continuation. But I definitely believe that on the next 1 hour candle, we'll see that top wick get formed, because like almost every candle except for this candle, and this candle is an exception candle. You can see here that we didn't have a top wick on this candle, and what that means when candles don't form this top wick is that there's just a lot of volume in the market. As soon as this candle closes, the volume just pushes down and you cannot form that top wick. But generally that top wick gets formed, as we've seen this here, in a continuation to break the low. So what I would look for is some correction in this next 1 hour candle, just because I'm not, like I said, looking to fight the volume. I just want to get a correction to this area here and potential break of whatever this 1 hour candle low ends up being within this structure here, this smaller time frame structure. So that's kind of what I'm looking at.
And coming off an election like this, or this 24-hour period, I mean, I think caution to the wind is going to be the best advice.
What is the best time for people in Europe since the U.S. Open is late and hard to concentrate after the evening? I think if you're in Europe, honestly, being able to trade the London session is like, if I was in a better time zone area, I would trade the London session. The London session is at 5 a.m. my time, which I stay up till 10 to 11, sometimes even 12 p.m. at night. And I have to go to the gym early at 5 o'clock. So I'm not able to trade the London session, especially the London Open, which is more so what I would focus around. So London would definitely be what I would recommend. In terms of like just even volume. So for gold, we started to see the volume come in, you know, the first initial entry for gold. If you look at it here structurally, price was coming down, creating lower lows and lower highs. And with this low here, we had this key structural level. And if we take a look on the larger time frame, you'll see what I'm talking about. You can see that this level was getting broken. Let me erase this. This level was getting broken, and we have this gap to the downside. So London session really is where the initial entry for me personally would have been, and what I trade would been the continuation, because how I execute is I'll take an initial entry, and then a potential scale in entry. And so let's say I'll take the first entry, which for gold would have been here. After we created this low, we break through all of these relatively equal lows that we have here. Gold was in a downward trend. We broke through with volume. We corrected to this level here. Even on the 1 hour time frame, being able to take, you know, this entry here, which happened literally at the 1 hour open for London, with a stops above this high here, to go back to that daily targeted level that we're looking for. That would have been the best entry for me. But since I don't trade the London session, I've had to scale in, or would have wanted to scale in, to the continuation. And so how, in a perfect world, if I were able to execute on both these trades, I would take this first position at a 1%, looking to target the same area. We would exit the position at that first bearish candle there. And then you have your continuation play right here, which is the New York session trade that I was looking for initially, to this area, which would be taken at a scaled position. So it would be a 0.5%. So we would be looking to, in a perfect world, make, you know, a 1 to 3.7. So that's like nearly 4. And then, you know, nearly about 2% on this trade here, for a total 6% return.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think that would have been the best entry. So if you're in Europe, man, London session is the best, because then you can continue to ride that volume throughout New York session. Or even if you work during the day, you can hold positions through that New York session, banking on that we get that, you know, continued volume through the New York session. So that's, you know, what I would say in response to that.
I have a question myself, though. Tyler, so throw this at you. So losses, right? Trading psychology, the mental game, the handling the stress, the emotions, the mindset. What do you guys? What do you guys
Yeah,
think?
I mean, that's obviously a really important part of it. Being able to kind of detach from the dollar amount. I think it comes with experience. There's just no other way that you're going to be able to just, take the losses and put on the risk in trading without getting that experience. But the trying to think what's the best way to explain it. I guess that hasn't been the biggest issue for me mentally, I guess. I've always sort of had the mindset on money of like, oh, it comes and goes. And it just kind of, and so I've never felt this like, ooh, this like attachment to money in that sense. Um, and I think that's like a good thing when it comes to trading, because there's just you gotta be able to roll with the punches. You got to know there's going to be another opportunity right around the corner. You got to think in the sense of over the next 1,000 trades. You can't
Yeah.
think like, oh, this one trade, it needs to go right for it to. If that's the case, your risk isn't managed, you're way oversized, right? So start thinking in terms of, okay, how do I perform over the next 1,000 trades? So when
Yeah.
you think about it that way, it's like, okay, I took a loss, no big deal. I got 999 more to go. And
Yeah.
and just having that long-term mindset. And obviously it's important that your risk is managed, because without it, your emotions won't be able to be in check. But yeah, it's just one of those things it's definitely tricky as a trader, but it'll come with time. It'll come with experience.
Yeah. I agree 110%. And it's like, even still, it never goes away. You still feel that as long as
Sure,
you
sure.
like, because I mean, and even for me, sometimes it's not even just about the monetary. I just don't like necessarily being wrong. And so and
Right.
for me, if I lose a trade, I have to dissect why I lost a trade. And for instance,
Yeah.
like this week, I was looking at okay, for instance, gaps always get filled. This is one thing that I always say, right? So on the smaller time frame on EUR USD, because the only two pairs that I trade are gold and EUR USD, but I'll look at the dollar in confluence to how, what the dollar is doing on the larger time frame and how the dollar is moving, and that'll help me inversely with EUR USD, because if the dollar goes up, EUR USD goes down. As you can see with this spike here, we got that bullish move for the dollar, and then this bearish spike to the downside. So yesterday, or I think it was Monday, because I didn't take any trades yesterday. Monday, I was looking for a continuation for price to fill this gap. We had tapped into my area of interest, and in this area, we had a market shift. We broke through this structural low. I dialed down to the smaller time frame, looked to take my entry after a smaller time frame shift. I was kind of breaking this down before we kind of hopped on the stream. And once we got this smaller time frame shift, I took my entry and wanted to see this gap get filled to the downside. So what I learned through my losses is how to invalidate a setup and to not get emotionally attached to setups. Because even with this trade that I took, I felt almost emotionally attached to it. What happened was we came into it was a 15-minute level of demand here, and then we got a shift, so a market shift. And I don't close my trades unless we get something to invalidate it. So when we got this market shift here where price pushed down, we created a low, pushed up, and then we broke through this high. That's a shift to me. That was indicative, or indicative, shall I say, that price could push higher, right? But I was so emotionally attached that I almost didn't want to close it. And I had to really sit with myself and like, look, this doesn't abide by, it's no longer valid, right? So I closed that, nearly break even there, and we seen this move to the upside. How I got emotionally attached to it is because I knew this gap would get filled, and lo and behold, last night when I'm not watching the charts, we get
Yeah.
this huge volume to the downside. And so I guess even learning from this position here to just scale even a smaller time frame or a smaller position in this area, with the stops below there, just to target clear through this highs, even at my stop loss, shall I say. And so I think it just comes down to, like you said, experience, and it does get easier with time, understanding the long term, but in the moment it could, it can be, you know, it can affect you. Definitely.
Practice,
Even
practice,
still now for
practice.
me.
Practice.
I hopped in another trade, boys. I liked the NAS relative strength and the indexes. I think we potentially have another 200 points of room if the market wants to hold this strength. You can see we spiked below the opening print, the level we had. We've got back up above. So I'll take a trim if we get back to the high day here. But then my runners, I would target up to like 20,900 on the NQ chart is what I'll be looking for.
Got you.
Hey, Kyron, you mentioned once your setup invalidates itself, that's when you're fully out of your trade, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So that would be your final take profit. That's what you mean by that.
So
I mean, you've exited the trade, so you've taken profit, but do you kind of was leading up to a question about like a 50% out, what triggers you to say, I'm out 50% or 1/4% of my trade?
For me, it just comes to when it becomes invalidated, and I think it just came through experience. We're able to understand, like specifically with the trade yesterday, it was in an area of interest, and on the larger time frame, we were in a bullish trend. So just identifying that on the daily, I didn't break it down, but on the daily, it had closed very tinily like a bullish long daily wick, but it closed as a bullish daily candle. And the previous 4 hour had closed bullish as well. So as I seen that smaller time frame shift in that area of interest, that's an area where I would have looked to buy, in the direction of the trend. So I knew that it was likely that it could push higher and it could take me out, stop me out. And so I went ahead and closed my position just fully just to avoid that loss, And so for me, it just comes down to when the trade becomes invalid, then that's when I'll look to modify. But let's say that trade would have ran and created lower lows and lower highs, then I would just trail the lower lows and lower highs, especially if we get some type of volume in the direction. Because generally when I get a trade, it'll come at a time of relative volume. I trade within the New York session. So that's when I'll, begin to modify my position. But in terms of like, I'll take a piece and just leave one. I'll only do that if I'm deep in profits. But if it's invalid near my break even, and I know that, how I called it is a correction move. I was looking for actually a continuation move because price was in a larger time frame corrective structure. And so I was looking for a continuation move of a larger time frame trend, and the larger time frame just invalidated that. So the smaller time frame did it well. All of that confluence didn't make it attractive for me to hold it. And that's why I was kind of like trying to take away that emotional attachment from the trade. And just had to, sit and talk with myself, and work through it and realize that it just wasn't time. And I knew I was only attached to it because I knew the gap would get filled and I didn't want to miss it specifically. And, it just wasn't time, and I was able to protect myself from loss.
Yeah.
So let's see. What's the best indication of price to reverse direction? I guess you guys can all put, your input in on what you guys think is the best indication of price to reverse direction. For me personally, it's when we come to an area of interest. And how I identify an area of interest is simple, generally supply and demand or a larger time frame trend. So like for gold yesterday, an area of interest, or for gold today specifically, an area of interest for me was here. That's where I would have had my take profit at. So if we would have got a smaller time frame shift, I mean, obviously I wouldn't have wanted to go against this current daily volume. But in any normal market, this would have been an area of interest where I would have looked for a smaller time frame shift. And if we get that smaller time frame shift, and the shift for me is just a change of character or a change of trend direction. So let's say we're creating lower lows and lower highs in the markets.
We might still be on Tyler's screen right now.
Oh.
Oh yeah, here. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. No
yeah,
worries.
I was gonna say the same thing, Kyrie.
That's me.
I look for the same thing, basically a shift in trend, right? If the market's making higher highs and higher lows, and then all of a sudden it starts to shift and it's making lower highs and lower
on a higher
lows.
time frame.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends. It depends what time frame I'm trading.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people,
especially more how long I want to hold it, all that sort of good stuff.
a lot of folks will tempt themselves on a 5 or 15-minute time frame to look at what a reversal, what would be a reversal. And I just think that, well, if you're scalping, maybe so. But I mean, I definitely recommend zooming out to that daily or definitely a 4-hour chart at least, and seeing, are we just in a pullback? Is this a temporary? Yeah, I'll let you continue, Karen.
No, you're fine. I was just saying, like, this was the area of interest that I would look for something like that on this daily time frame. And I wouldn't fight against this current daily volume because we close as a huge daily bearish candle. But in a normal market where this would just slowly go to the downside here, I would look for some type of shift. And so I would come down to the smaller time frame and wait. We would have to be patient to wait for price to tap into this area and specifically to reach this area and go into this area. And for me, a shift is just consider, let's say we're in a lower lows and lower highs, we're in a downtrend, right? A shift for me on the smaller time frame was when we come into my area of interest, which would be this area. I want to see price create a high, higher low, and then a bullish signal within this demand zone. And that to me would be indicative of a shift. And then a lot of times it'll come as let's say like a 4-hour candle closes, right? And we have a move to the downside, we close as a bearish 4-hour candle, and then we get the start of the new candle to start that essential shift. So that's what I would use as a reverse, or that's what I use, shall I say, as an indication of a reversal, just a area of interest, a retest, whether it's a supply or demand, depending on which way the trend is. Gold is in a larger time frame bullish trend. So that's why this is an area of interest for me that we could potentially reverse off or could have reversed off of. And we kind of mentioned it in the chat this morning. Cam talked about it, that he thought that this was an area that he could see a flip too. And it's just, you can't fight against the volume. So it just continued down for the session. And that's just what it is currently.
We have a question. What are the non-trading days where price just does more, I guess, does some random things? But I was actually thinking of a question to ask you guys there, and I see this viewer asked, Kratos, what are the non-trading days where price just does something random? I really enjoy, and my question was going to be, what do you guys enjoy more? When yours, I use the 4-hour as a definitive trend setter. So, it's either going up, down, or it's in a pullback. I actually enjoy pullbacks the most and that's why I saw that question by one of our viewers. During a pullback, I see more opportunities and usually have more successful trades because I'm looking at possible shorts and possible longs. Now, that's just my personality. And I find when we're already on a trend, let's say it's going, gold is going up, I definitely will on the 4-hour, if it's going up for, days and weeks, I'm not going to take a short. I'd have to be scalping or doing something I'm not familiar with. But, what do you guys think as far as that? I personally enjoy a pullback off the current trend on a higher time frame. Gives me more opportunities to go short and long, kind of watching for my setups in both directions.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a favorite there?
You can speak.
I think being fluid and having an open mind to being long or short is definitely a positive asset as a trader to have. I mean, it's one of the things that can be really hard to do, is you can get really stuck to a bias pretty easily, right? It's like, I think the market's going to do this, and I think the market's going to do this, right? Being able to keep your mind open to, like, I don't know what the market's going to do. I'm just going to react to what it shows me. And maybe you think the market's going to keep going up, but like, it's giving you clear signs that a downtrend has started, right? And so, like, being able to just have that fluidity of flipping from long to short it's such a balancing act, because it can hurt you if you do it too much. But being open to it, I think, is important. But yeah, Sarky, I think is the name, said, how do you approach trading liquidity zones when market reactions to news can be unpredictable? I don't really trade the news, to be honest with you. And in terms of what specific tactics you use to avoid getting trapped, No, I mean, you just got to manage your risk and adjust your stop losses, right? If you're in a winning trade, just, you know, trail your stop loss, or just have your risk managed, right? There's always unpredictability in the markets, so you have to operate as a risk manager who is just, you know, protecting yourself. And yeah, none of us know for sure what's going to happen ever, and that's, you gotta be open to what the market's showing you and giving you.
Yeah, and for me personally, you know, the best teacher in the markets is experience. So I tried a couple ways of trading the news, and I especially like at least the spike. So I did the whole buy stop, sell stop thing above and below, and that just doesn't. I've seen the worst of that, where you get slipped and both
Mm.
of your positions get activated and they both get stopped off. So in terms of playing the spike of the news, I don't trade the spike. I trade the volume after the spike. So after we get a spike in the news, and the news is released, I trade the volume following that. So like 5 to 10 minutes after, it depends. You'll see some type of, you have to dial down to a smaller time frame. For me, the 1 minute generally, to see that corrective structure of the form, and then to kind of get in a continuation similar to what looks like Tyler's got on the screen now. I mean, it would just be in a smaller time frame market, but it would look essentially structurally the same. So that's how I go about that.
Yes, if you guys, so as I mentioned earlier, I took a NAS long, I just like the way that the NAS was holding up compared to SPX and US 30. I took a long as we started to break back above the opening print. I also have a price level here. And something that I do, the way I trade, is I typically will add to my winning positions. As you guys can see, I added a second position here on the 2-minute chart. I don't know if the 2-minute chart is an option on, but yeah, it is. So I initially added, so if you're looking at the 2-minute chart, my first entry was right here. We got this pop up and then a little bit of a pullback that then started to give us signs against. This is what I would call a 2-minute buy setup, right? We had an attempt to go lower that failed and got bought back up. And then when we triggered above that 2-minute high, that to me was a 2-minute buy setup, triggering both above the opening print and above my price level. So I took a second entry on this position. And I'm going to take that second entry. I'll take off. You can see I have my TP here. I'm front running the high day a little bit. And so my position size in my first entry was, I don't know if it's big enough for you guys to read, but my first entry was 0.04 lots. And then my second entry, I added with 0.02 lots.
So in terms of percent risk, how much did you risk on the account?
Yeah, so, and this is something we were talking about this before, right? And I think Brian started giving an explanation, and I didn't kind of finish my thought there. But I agree with you, like on the percentage risk side of things, instead of looking at dollar amounts. But I also think on prop firms, it's different, right? Because I'm trading a 25K account. So if you look at the risk based off of the account size percentage is one thing. But then if you look at the risk percentage based off of like how much drawdown do I have, right? I only have 25, I have 10% of drawdown, right? I think
Got you.
Right. So really, I only have $2,500. So I kind of think that when people are trading their prop firm accounts, they should base that percentage off of your drawdown amount. Like you really should be risking more. Like, okay, maybe you risk a little bit more than 0.5% or 1%. Maybe you risk 2 or 3%, but you're doing 2 or 3% of 2,500, right? So I would, to be honest with you, I would have to go. I'd have to look at this trade and like do the math on like the drawdown we have and all that stuff. But yeah, so I do think that's an important thing. Let's see. So this is the 25K count. So my max loss. So it looks like, what is the initial limit? So I'm trying to look and see what the actual drawdown is so I can give you a percentage.
Oh no.
I guess I'm trying to shoot from the hip from a little bit, but basically just off of experience and like the dollar amount. Like I know
Yeah, of course.
I'm within my risk parameters. I have let's see. Both of these trades, I think the first trade was about a $200 risk, and the second one was about an additional $100 worth of risk. If we get a little bit more of a pop here, I may move some stops into break even as well.
Gotcha.
I'd love to see that pop. Give us that pop, baby. Anybody else long with me?
Oh yeah, we do have some. This is not as one, isn't it?
Where is did I lose?
Someone's on SPX.
Yeah, I saw that. I lost my. Oh, here it is. I lost the streaming screen. I'm like, where am I? I got too much stuff up. There it is, baby. Let's go. Give me that first PT.
No, that
All
looks
right,
good.
listen. We took the first L on this stream, but I want the first dub too. Let's go.
And look, there's no better way. You know, there's no
Yeah,
better
it
way.
is. This is a good example, hopefully, if this hits here, of not letting the first
Yeah.
loss affect my mentals, right? It wasn't the fact that I lost that trade wasn't a big deal to me at all. I waited for another setup that I liked, and it's starting to pay off.
Looking at a setup here. Let me see.
So all in all, I'm up $500 currently on this trade. Oh, don't do it. Don't do me dirty.
Up is up. That's good.
Let's go. There it is. There it is. All right. So the add-on position was filled. So we locked it in. So now I'm floating $340 worth of profit, and I'm going to move my stop to break even on the remainder of this trade. So this will lock in a guaranteed small winner for me. My stop is now break even with the 0.04 contracts. Like I said, I think the NQ has about another, or NAS 100 has about another 125 points of room if it wants to continue to trend. If we break to a new high day, I'd probably take off another very small piece just to stay defensive, and then let the rest ride and see what happens.
Yeah, no, I think that sounds like a good plan. I'm currently, let me see, let me take a look and make sure that I'm seeing this correctly.
Hey, while he's doing that, where's everybody from?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Where's everybody from? I mean, we're all three of us right now. We're all in the U.S. By the way, I think we may have said that. Made that
Kyron,
clear.
you're in UK, aren't you?
No, I'm in the US.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were. I don't know why I thought you were UK. Did you
No,
live in the
no,
UK at one point?
No, I was in London, or I was in the UK like early this year, but no.
Okay, maybe that's what it was then. Maybe that's what.
Yeah, and I think you two guys are East Coast, right? Eastern time.
Yeah.
I'm Central U.S. Looks like we got people from.
Gone.
Where's everybody at?
Cyprus, Ghana.
As we begin growing this program, it'll be interesting to see folks from all places.
In India, so a lot of people from overseas.
Lots of love, baby. Lots of love. Somebody else said I love you earlier in the chat, and we love you too.
Can I hold a trade overnight? Ravi says this.
So we at FunderPro, we are not with a fast track account. You can do so with the swing trade account. So we offer a swing trade account. Has a little bit of a lower leverage amount on the swing trade account, but outside of that, like the pricing is the same. And with the swing trade accounts, you can hold overnight, and you can hold through the restricted news events as well.
What you got there, Carmen?
Oh, I was gonna ask. So, how many trades do you take in, let's say, a day or a week? And I wanted to ask everybody else how many trades they generally take. For me, I like to take maybe like 1 or 2 setups a day. Whether I get it in the New York session or the Asian session, it'll generally be just 1 to 2. And if I get a winner in one, I generally don't, you know, take another trade for the day, or at least for another move, I guess you can say, because I like to trade movements in the market. So
Yeah.
I'll
I think that's a good rule of thumb. That's definitely something I've struggled with, is always trying to get more out of the market, and you know, sometimes you can overstay your welcome, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're normally, unless you're like a scalper, like I definitely am willing to take a little bit more trades than that, depending on like how my day is going. And sometimes if I think that the market's giving us a trending day and I've like caught a win, I may take another entry, but it'll always be smaller size. Like I'm trying to, you know, risk less, not give back very many of those profits, if anything, right? But that's the beauty of trading. We all want the freedom, and a lot of us will sit at the screens all day. And if you keep it, if you can stick to that 1 to 2 trades a day, you know, get your in and then go and enjoy your life. And, you know, you can manage your trades from your phone, and you manage your runners from your phone, right? And that can help keep you from over trading. But yeah, I think sticking to like 1 to 3 trades is kind of the sweet spot.
Yeah. And see, and I think it's like, it definitely depends on trading strategy, because Kratos says he takes 5 trades because he trades on the 1 minute. And then, you know, Ado says he takes, you know, 2 a week because he's an intraday trader. So it definitely does depend on what type of, or what time frame markets you're trading. I think we all trade relatively, you know, we use higher time frame confluences, but we execute on a smaller time frame, looking to get positions that could last up to, you know, 15, 20 minutes to an hour, maybe a couple hours, depending on what the move is. So I was just curious as to, you know, how you guys go about that.
I
Because
answer
think
that
that's important.
question. Yeah, I'll answer that question as in I am more successful when I take fewer trades.
I think that's pretty standard for most
Yeah,
traders.
less is definitely more.
Yeah. I did an interview with, shout out Willie. I'm not talking shit, Willie, I promise. Willie was awesome. He's a funded trader that's gotten payouts with us, and he's a truck driver. So he's driving like a you know, the big tractor trailer trucks. And we did an interview, and he said early on in his career he took 300 trades in one day on one of his accounts. I was laughing so hard. 300 is craziness, man. That's wild. He's like on the 1 second chart. Oh, shout out Willie, my man Willie.
Yeah, definitely shout out Willie.
The full interview will come out, but Willie was awesome. He was a cool guy, hustling to improve his life for his family, man. But yeah, I thought that was funny. 300 is craziness.
I wouldn't have the emotional discipline to execute 300 positions unless you had like some type of copy trader. Like,
yeah, sure. No, he said 1 account. This was 1 account for sure.
Oh, no. Yeah, no.
Yeah, what do you guys think of the? Are you Kyron? Do you like copy trading multiple accounts, or are you a 1 account man?
Okay, so I don't copy trades. So, or it depends on, for me, it depends on the setup. So like if it's an A plus, like I have like tiers of setup. So if we have an A plus setup, like for instance, EUR USD, what for me was an A plus setup. We had a gap to fill to the downside that always gets filled. So for those, I'll take, you know, 1% of the total account balance on, you know, I have 400K in funding currently and taking a 100K challenge. Also, you know, taking this 25K. So that's something that I put on all of my accounts, but I'll generally only trade 1 account. And it depends. I've been challenging myself, documenting, growing a small account while on the side of doing these. So that had been my focus for like all the last week. And this week I was like, okay, I got to lock back in on all of my accounts. And so I just play it by ear. It depends for me. Like I have different accounts that have different payouts. So I'll wait on one and then trade another and then, you know, just play it kind of like that. But with FunderPro, there's no wait. No wait.
Yeah,
I love it.
Wait,
I love it.
No wait. No wait. I love it. Yeah, it's awesome. The payouts are crazy fast. But yeah, I agree. I like having multiple accounts that you can kind of cycle in, right? Like if you trade one, maybe you take 1 or 2 losses, and instead of doing more damage on that, maybe you want to trade. There's other setups that are out there still, and emotionally you're okay, but you don't want to do more damage to that account, right? If you have another one, you can go do that. I like to kind of cycle that way as opposed to copy trade. All of my accounts the same.
It's like putting all your eggs in one basket, and then you can have all of these I always tell people that I would rather have, 4 25K accounts than 1 100K account, because I have that freedom. If you, like you said, you take a loss on one account or 1 or 2 accounts down, you can still get and receive payouts from these other 2 accounts that may be in profit if you don't, if you kind of, structure it that way. So I've always found that that's just worked best for me. It helps with the emotional, I'm not risking as much. And once you get to a certain, I don't know for you, but once you get to a certain point, it's like, the money is, I don't need to have more, I don't want to be greedy. I like to keep it conservative and just, make my individual money in the day. So I definitely like to have those multiple accounts to have that kind of
Now,
flexibility.
how do you handle that when you're, say, in drawdown? For me, if you're doing well, let's say it's a challenge. Okay, you're in the middle of a challenge. Let's say you're, more than 50% accomplished on it. You see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? You're doing good. Certainly you enjoy trading when you're ahead like that. And I'm actually, if I'm way ahead like that in a challenge, I'm prone to do actually less trades because I want them to be successful trades. I don't want to lose what I've already earned. But I'll admit right now, my emotions change. Now, I'm not going to say my discipline changes, but I know my emotions change. Now, I don't act on them all the time, but if you go into drawdown or you're, maybe let's say you're on a 100K account, and you're up 10%, you come all the way back down to 100. How do you feel about that? Do you change your strategy at that point? Do you change your lot size? Or maybe the question is a drawdown question. Answer it either way you want.
Yeah,
My
so for
emotions change.
me personally, I just if I've had accounts that I've gotten literally almost like needed 100K account and needed $50 to pass, and it pulled and then wound up
I've heard that
even,
story. Too many
pulling
people,
all the
man.
way back. And so it is for me personally, I would take a break. Like I would just have to, and then I would go through every single trade that I took, what went wrong. Like what was going good when I made the 10% or whatever the percent was, and how did I get close? What are the things that I did then, and how can I replicate it? And it comes down to journaling your trades. This is one thing that a lot of people don't do, and especially if you trade the smaller time frame, you take more trades. But I've seen the biggest improvement in my trading once I started journaling my trades and having to defend in my notes, why did I take this trade? Because if I can't defend why I took this trade and it doesn't abide by my strategy, then it winds up being losses. And that's what it was when I had the account that got close and then brought it all the way back down to zero. That's what had happened. I started taking trades outside of my plan, but by having that journal, I was able to, okay, this trade didn't go by my plan. I go back and I look at it and I'm like, oh man, I would have passed had I not made all these mistakes. So I think that that's how I would go about it, just taking a break and then reevaluating the trades, the setups. Did it abide by your plan? And, to kind of tap on what Kratos said, he said, you take a trade request, you pay out and receive it within seconds. What else is better? That is what brought me here. I love that in the model FunderPro. I think the guys here are trying to build something really special. And I'm excited to be a part of that.
That journaling, that's such a big deal because it's hard to journal trash moves,
Yeah.
It's hard to, it's easy to write it, but it's really hard to get yourself to write or type that out, I showed you guys, I do name calling on myself, I'll put notes in there. So when I look back a month later, I write notes to myself, but it is, journaling helps you in the present time as well, at least for me. It's hard to document a bad move. You got to write it down.
Yeah.
But, I don't want to do that.
Lance, I think his name's Lance Bielstein. Bielstein, I think his name is. He was a professional trader who's made millions trading, and he talked about that, how that's how he got good, was journaling. And something he said that I thought was really well said is that when he had his good days, most people have a good day and they want to go celebrate. It's like, all right, let's go. Let's call it a day. Let's go get some drinks. Let's go out to dinner, whatever, and celebrate that big day. But his mindset was like, okay, if I want to continue to have this good feeling and have these feelings of good days, guess what? I need to figure out what I did right, and I need to journal it, and I need to write it down if I want this to keep happening. And so he used that as kind of his motivation to journal after the good days. And then on the bad days, that feeling of like, oh, I feel so bad. I can't believe I did this again. I made the same mistake, whatever. The last thing people want to do at that point in time is sit down and journal it. You just want to call it a day and get away from it, forget about it. And he was also like, I don't want to feel like this anymore. So in order to not feel like this anymore, I got to do it. I got to put in the work.
Literally, that's what it is. Like, you just
looking at it, on both sides of the coin is just like,
and it is rough to go in there and have to defend why you took a trade that you knew you shouldn't have taken. And it comes generally, for me, it was just emotional. Like, it would just be an emotional decision to take an entry because I would either miss a move or just markets may have been slow and I wanted to force something that wasn't there. So just having to look, sit and look in that mirror and say, did this abide by my rules? Something I kind of learned from the book, the Power of Discipline. And it's definitely vital and something that we need as traders to be successful in this market. You need discipline.
The Power of
We have a
Discipline.
question out there.
It's not one I read, but maybe I got to check it out.
We have a question out here on how many accounts can one have. I believe that means probably how long you can have. How many you can have concurrently. I believe there's no limit.
So
there's a limit on funded live accounts.
I think it's, I want to say it's 200K, Brian, or do you know if that's
it's 200K.
Yeah, so you can be funded with 200K, whether you want to do that through, I think you can do 10K accounts if you want, or if you want to do, 2 100K accounts. So there's, so 200K is the max that you can be with. Now from there, you can scale up. Like if you show consistency and everything, you can scale up to $5 million. But I think you have to be consistent for at least a month before you would get like scaled up. Also on the account thing, I saw it looks like Lito or somebody addressed it. Lito is our guy back on the back end. I think he addressed it in the chat, but I said that you cannot hold positions overnight. I was incorrect. You can hold positions overnight with any of the accounts with FunderPro. It's over the weekends. So you can't hold over the weekends or through news unless you have the swing account. But you can hold overnight. My mistake on that one.
I appreciate you clearing that up because that helps me because, like I said, I take those Asian. Or well, I guess it would be start of day. So start of day.
So
like 5.
Yeah, that's what I do. I'll normally take an Asian session trade, which is really market open, and so you're not. For us, it feels like we're holding overnight because sometimes you take the trade and you go to bed, but you're not actually.
Somebody here said that I don't mean to cut you off. Somebody here said that if they was in the NASDAQ, they would take their trade at their profits there where you're at currently. So how do you, I'm going to ask you personally, how are you planning to either scale out of this position or what are your plans going forward now that you've hit this area of interest?
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys were watching or paying attention to the screen there, but so at max, I had 0.06 lots in this trade. The first trim I took was the second added position was the 0.2 lots, which I kind of front run. My target was the high a day, but I kind of front ran it and just took my profits there and just in case we decided to fail. So that was the first profit I took. And then if you guys were watching, I don't know if you could see it or not, but as we got this pop above high a day, I had the remaining position on, which was 0.4 lots. I took 2 more of those off. So now I'm down to 0.2 lots from my original position of 0.6 lots. And my stop's currently at break even. I am probably going to trail it. Matter of fact, let's do it while we're here. I'm going to trail it into profits right now. So I'm just going to drag this up under this little 5-minute kind of, you could call this, not much of a pullback, I would call this more of a pause bar than it is a pullback. But we tested under that 5-minute low. So this now puts my runners, if I got stopped in my runners, I would get stopped with $80 of profit. I'm currently floating $220 worth of profit. I'm currently, my equity on the account currently sits at $550 profit, so $25,550, and my balance with the open profits is at $25,341. So for me, either way, I've locked a winning day. Like I said, I think the NASDAQ potentially has room another 75-ish points if it wants to stay strong. We got a strong hourly close. The first New York close from 9:30 to 10:30 was a strong close. So I'm just going to give these a little bit of room, see if they want to pop another 80 or so points, and see what happens.
Gotcha. So will you look to just trail your stops? Will you continue to trail your stops, or will you just have an overall designated take profit location?
Yeah, I will. I will continue to trail this stop. Like I won't want to give back too much of this. And even if you look at this, we had sort of. I don't really need this on the screen anymore. Obviously, that's a little bit of a harsh pullback on. You got made a new high in a day, pretty harsh pullback, but we'll see.
Yeah.
This area here, right? If I have my stops here, I'll continue to trail. I'd love to see us put in some sort of higher low in this area to continue the move. I think this pullback makes sense, but I also wouldn't be surprised if this ends up stopping me out. But yeah, here the way I'll trail this the rest of this position, right, is I'm out. I've taken 2/3 of the position off.
Yeah, that's a good trade. It was a good trade.
Yeah. And for me, mentally, I struggle with FOMO more if the market runs without me and I close the trade early. Then I struggle if this comes back and stops me out. And I just know that based off of experience, if I close this trade right now, just because I'm like, okay, I'm happy with it, and then the market runs another 100 points, I may start forcing something at that point to where if I just kind of let it run and it comes back and it stops me out, it's like, okay, well, I got my win. Sure, I gave back a little bit of profits, but we locked a solid win in. So
yeah, no, that's good. That was a good trade, especially the first one to start off, and a good bounce back from the first trade that you had took.
Yeah,
Abdullah says from today, he started a 50K one-step challenge after blowing the 5K. Abdullah, just one question to you: how did you blow the count? What do you feel? What did you feel that you learned from that? That experience.
What happened, man? What happened? Tell us about the 5K. Obviously, 5K is a smaller account, so you gotta trade a little smaller size.
Yeah.
But what happened? Did you try? You try fading the move? You try fading the strength, or what? What happened? Oversized, over trading?
Yeah, I think for me, I don't think I've ever had an oversized problem, but I definitely, like you said, I had that same problem that with you of having FOMO of a trade, blowing through a certain area. Only if I close early and I'm not supposed to. I kind of talk on how a setup could be invalidated for me. And so if I close a trade before it's invalidated, that just eats away at me. It's like, and it was a bad habit for a while, but like I'm telling you, it really bothered my spirits to just not abide by, have the discipline and the emotional capacity to just sit and continue to wait. We get a pullback like this. Yeah.
In the market, right? Because like your trade, like you said, your trade hasn't been invalidated, right? You have your stop at a specific place for a reason. Yeah. And the market's just consolidating. It's not going anywhere. And the longer you sit there and wait, like I do that too. I'm just like, it's not working. Just close it. Just close it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you know what? It hasn't actually invalidated yet, man. Just let it see. Let it play out. And we'll see what happens. I would love to see the NAS put in a little bit of a wick on this 5-minute candle, setting up a potential higher low. If not, obviously it'll probably end up stopping me out. But we shall see. We shall see. I'm happy either way. I'm probably just managing this one. I doubt I'll take another trade today.
Yeah, even after this session, I may still be looking at, because now we just got, for me, a shift on gold. But to talk about Kratos, what you said, I think it's important to grow a small account and, you know, polish yourself on that smaller account, because it's less risk to yourself. Just even if you were doing a live account or, you know, a funded account, to just start off. So when I first got into funded accounts, my first account I think was like a 25K or maybe a 10K. I think it was a 10K, but that was the smallest you could get at the time. And so then I got two of those, lost those, then sized up to a 25K. Did a little bit better, lost that one, sized up to a 50K, feeling more confident throughout this process and understanding why I'm taking my losses and feeling better in myself and strategy. And so I think I took like 150K, and it was like when I took the 100K account, that was the first account that I had passed, and I had that account up until, you know, God forbid the firm shut down. But just
Yeah.
growing that small
Not here,
account, but I
baby.
made enough profits on that account to make back everything that I had lost buying all of the other accounts and then some. So that it wouldn't have happened if I would have started off with a 100K account. I would have blown through my funds, because at the time I literally did not have the funds to do it. So just especially in that position, just taking those smaller accounts. And I always say it's better to have a couple small accounts than one big account anyway. Just kind of what we
Yeah,
talked about on having that, you know, that versatility and flexibility.
for sure, for sure. So the Nas was narrating the trade a little bit more. The Nas put in a nice 5-minute bar. Obviously, we're now failing it pretty quickly. I trailed my stop up a little bit more with that 5-minute wick. That's what I wanted to see, but I was hoping to get a little bit more continuation. But we'll see how it plays out. I like the wick it put in, but although it's funny because I'm watching. Let's see. Oh, I'm still on the 2-minute. That's I forgot I switched to the 2-minute. I'm like, wait. I'm looking at 2-minute charts. I'm like, my 5-minute hasn't closed yet. What do you mean? And then I'm like, wait, I'm on the 2-minute chart. That's funny.
Oh, okay. That I can see that.
So yeah. So look, yeah. So if you're on the 2-minute, the 2-minute gave us the close. The 2-minute gave us a nice wick. Wick. The 2-minute gave us a nice wick. But yeah, I didn't realize. I forgot that I had switched over to the 2-minute to show this 2-minute pullback earlier. But,
you know, you mentioned, Tyler, that probably is your last trade of the day. What are you guys' daily routines, you know, or pre-market routines, rituals, habits?
Yeah, mine can vary. I have 2 kids. So sometimes the morning routines with the kids, and my wife will work night shift sometimes. She's a nurse. So if she's working a night shift, right? I'm normally on dad duty in the mornings, and it looks a little bit different. So I know that's not ideal, that my mornings aren't always the same. But for the most part, I'm pretty basic. I get up, get my coffee, I'll sit down and I start checking out the charts, see what other work I have to do for FunderPro. And but I'll take a trade pre-market, like before, like the London session before New York Open sometimes, because sometimes I can just get it away before the family's awake.
Yeah.
You can get it done and over with. So I do think like routines are important, but for me, it's not something that's like a major emphasis in my trading. I know a lot of traders would say differently, but that's just kind of the way my life is. Sometimes things just gotta be on the fly. Gotta be on the fly with that family life sometimes, you know what I mean?
Yeah. For me, you know, it's just me and my girlfriend. So I wake up every day at like 4:30 every day, and I go to the gym. So I'm at the gym from like 5 to like 6:30, and been consistent for the last 12 weeks. So last 12 weeks been consistent every day, Monday through Friday at the gym. We did legs today, the worst day of the week. I'll be
Wednesday,
sitting in this.
week you said?
Yeah, leg day, man. I can't
Oh,
stand
leg day. I thought you said Wednesday.
Oh no, Wednesday, yes, Wednesday leg day is the worst day of the week. So I'll do that, and then after that, I'll come home like 6:37. I'll shower, eat, and then I'll do some pre markups for, you know, I'll either look to trade, like today's entry, I was just editing. So I'll generally edit and look at the charts before the session. And I was editing and missed the gold trade that happened pre-New York, like right before New York. So that's consistent to how I go about at least trading after the session. I'm generally creating some type of content, editing, or hanging out with my dog, training him, doing something like that in that nature.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Brian?
Earlier,
Morning
earlier
routine?
I said earlier I mentioned that I favor trading less instruments than more, and I favor gold. But for pre-market draw-ups, pre-market analysis, there's not a lot that I have to put into that. For me, because if you live by one asset pretty strongly, you kind of already know where it's at. You can still
Yeah.
come in there and look at support and resistance, what's formed up while I was sleeping, and that sort of thing. But that's one of the reasons why I like fewer things to trade. Is it reduces my pre-market routine for the charts.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
When I was trading, I started off trading options in the U.S. equities market, and it's your kind of your morning prep when you sit down and start scanning the charts is like so much more intense. I mean, there's just hundreds thousands of tickers and charts that you could potentially look for, right? And most people who trade options or equities will have like a basket of like 5 or 10 that they just kind of watch. But yeah, there was always like a lot more, and it could be a lot more stressful too, because there could be 5 or 6 charts that look good, and it's like, well, which one do you trade? And so like
that was my exact problem.
All over the place sometimes, yeah.
That was literally my exact problem. So I want to say about January of this year, I used to, for the past 2 years, I want to say I used to look at every single USD pair, currency pair, along with gold, and then 3 JPY pairs. So I would look at USD JPY, AUD JPY, and GBP JPY. And so that exact thing of, for me, I only take 1 to 2 trades a day. So how I see it is going to an arcade with only 1 token, and you have to choose which game you're going to play today, and that's the only game that you can play. Like and so it's stressful, when it's that. So when I focus on just the 2 markets, and I use the 2 from that trading journal, I was able to figure out what my 2 most successful markets were, and it was gold and EUR USD. And I'm like, okay, if I just cut off, I think it was like a 35% increase that I would see in profit if I just cut off all of these other assets and solely focused on gold and EUR USD. And literally, what I didn't know would come from that is the stress of having to go through so many different markets and, do that pre-market, markup and things of that nature. It took so much stress off because, like you say, Brian, you know where it's at. You only focus on 2 pairs. I know what EUR USD is doing. I know what gold is doing. I don't necessarily have to look at it, but I know what it's doing. And so in terms of last night, though, I definitely missed out on that initial drop from the presidential election.
Yeah.
So you have to, keep an eye on it, but it's not as much pressure, I feel like, to decipher which markets to execute on.
Yeah, it's almost like having a friend. You just, I know how this friend plays. I know that they're in a pullback at the moment. They're going there. Well, what's your current support and resistance? Let's see what the setups is, what they are for today.
Look at that NAS hold, baby. Look at that NAS hold.
Yeah.
Let's go.
That's beautiful. Kratos, to kind of talk about what you said best habit of yours is to avoid bad habits, which also helps me in trading, not to take random trades in low probability setups. So when I was growing up, my dad always said, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And he was military, and so he's very strict and pristine in that type of way.
I like that.
So and his biggest thing was always make your bed in the morning. You got to make your bed. It's the first task of the day. And I guess that's something that they're taught in the military to do. And so he instilled that. But just even little things, if it was like cleaning the house and I didn't clean it to standard, I would have to go back and do it. He said, do it right or do it over. So it's like little things I've learned just even with trading. Trading has grown. I've grown as a person, I feel like, the most through trading, because you have to be rude with yourself. You have to
Oh,
go through these emotional things, you know? And
it'll
so
show you who
Yeah.
you are.
yeah,
100%.
like fear and greed. So one thing that I did is I like books, audiobooks. So I have like
Mhm.
a whole bunch of books. So I read this book and I got a whole bunch of notes from it. But Atomic Habits, I think it's a
Yeah, it's a good
great
one.
book. The Power of Discipline is another good book. Just to um because how we build good habits is essentially the little things by making incremental changes in a day. The decision to make your bed up, it doesn't take too much time realistically, you know, of your day to get up and make your bed. But that one task of doing the first thing of the day could, you know, project the rest of your day. That's why I like going to the gym. I physically feel better to take on the day after I go to the gym. And so, and I don't like doing it at night because then I feel sluggish all day. So
Mm,
things like that I feel like are important. So how you do one thing is how you do everything. Trading has made me a more patient person. You know, you have to
Truly,
be
yeah.
patient in here. And that was my biggest thing. I wanted now I trade. You know, a lot of people get into trading for the because you see it's you can make money online. It looks like
yeah,
a
the
get
quick
rich
money.
quick
Yeah,
type thing. But it's a very humbling experience. And so they say patience is gold, and it literally is, you know. And so
Yeah.
that's one thing that I've learned
Eh,
through this journey.
yeah. And it's the everything and practice. What do you practice? You and your dad made you what was it? Go back and do it right, do it again if you didn't do it right,
Yeah.
or yeah. In trading, there's a point that a lot of people want to reach out of to a mastering degree. Obviously, and that kind of made me think that in trading, it's not about doing everything. It's about mastering the one thing that can make all the difference, right? So the power of repetition, you know, and and that one thing that helped me evolve was when I would begin, and kind of going back to another question from a moment ago about our daily ritual, but when
Yeah.
I'm looking for one setup, you know, uh, the first challenge I passed was because I said, you know what, I'm looking at too many possibilities. I'm looking at everything. Let me focus on one thing. I focused on one setup, and the evolution of my trading started. Um, the power of repetition to that one thing and perfecting that one move so much that when the time comes, it's deadly accurate, you know?
Yeah.
And the person behind it, yourself, you're unshakable, you know? It's almost like for me, my mindset was almost computerized. I was focusing on one setup, one asset. This is how I'm going to do it. If the setup doesn't happen today, I'm going to turn the other way. And I learned that through some hardships. I would
Yeah.
go in and I would try. I say, let's apply my setup to US 30. Let's apply my setup to NAS. Loss, 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 loss. Let's apply it back to gold tomorrow. Win, win. US 30, loss. Man, I just started filtering down. What am I doing right? Boy, that is so little. Now let me just do that little bit all the time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
boom,
And
pass the
repeat it.
challenge. Not, I think folks should take that type of motivation. But whatever setup is maybe more your personality or your
Yeah.
focus.
And so what I would ask is, and I asked you guys the other day, and I want to ask everybody in the chat, what is the thing that you feel like you struggle with most in your trading? Like, is it necessarily for me, it was kind of what we talked about, you know, closing trades early, which was a big thing. And I had to be stern and disciplined about, you know, only closing a trade when it invalidates my setup, which it creates, you know, lower lows or lower highs if I'm looking for
Yeah.
buy positions and things of that nature. So when it becomes invalid is one thing that I had to, you know, to work through. So I'm curious to know what everybody's what they feel is one of the things that they had to at least overcome, learn to grow, or still even if you're struggling with whatever it is now. I think that in this sense of community, that's how you learn, you know. You're able to
Yeah.
learn from and identify your what it is that is making you unprofitable, what you feel is making you unprofitable, because the first thing that you need to do is have self-awareness.
Yeah. I would
You
say
know?
one of the things I struggled with the most, it's actually dealing with like the euphoria that comes with winning streaks, right?
Mm,
Um, I would go on these winning streaks, and then the position sizing starts to slowly creep up, and the idea that this is going to be a losing trade starts to fade away, and it's like I'd go on these winning streaks and then blow up, right? And it's just like that.
gotcha.
What happens to your brain after those winning streaks is always tough. And so like that was once I got to like a certain point of success that I was having, that was like kind of still the hurdle that I had to deal with. That was difficult for me. And for anyone who struggles with closing their trades early, I talk about this book all the time, but Best Loser Wins by Tom Hugard, I think is the best resource that a trader could have to holding their trades better. And
Mm,
yeah, I suggest checking it out. It's a great audiobook too, because he doesn't dive into the technicals. Like you don't have
mhm.
to look at chart examples and stuff. It's all just all
Yeah,
mindset, right? And so
I'm
like it
definitely
was
gonna have to check that out.
yeah, I listen to that just when I'm driving or when you go to the gym, Kyron, in the morning.
Yeah,
It's a
and
good listen, man. I listen to it like 3 or 4 times. It's so super good, super good.
that's crazy, because I go to the gym every day with headphones on, and I never have music on when I'm in the gym listening. I
You're
literally
on
either
a
have
mission of
it.
self-improvement, my friend. You are on a mission of self-improvement, and I love it.
Look, I'm telling you, it's either me and my thoughts, or I'm listening to some audiobook. The book that I just was listening to today was Can't Hurt Me. And I love the gym because you meet so many different people.
Mhm.
So I met somebody who actually is a trader while I going to the gym
Oh,
every day.
nice.
And so like literally last week. So we've been talking about trading and different things of that nature, how to grow credit and things like that. But he put me on to a book, or I think it was an audiobook, is how to worry less. It's
Mm.
not stop it's not, oh man,
Is it
I
the
wish
su
I
is
could
it
spit
the
you verbatim.
subtle art of not giving an F? Is it that one?
Oh, no, but I have read that one too. And it's not stop worrying and start living. It's like audiobook snippet. It's about an hour long. I listened to about 25 minutes of it today. Um But yeah, and that's kind of where I got that you need to be self-aware, because that's what it was talking about, and how to not let other people and other circumstances worry you. You need to be self-aware of what heightens your emotions, things of that nature. And if
Mm,
you're not self-aware, then you're just in blindness. And so that's why I asked the question, what is the thing that you struggle with most? Because it forces you to really deep, like, look at yourself, and like, I've been struggling with X, whatever it may be, and then from there you can start to moving steps forward. So I think that that's important for anybody's success, just in life and in trading, especially, to be able to sit there and ask, what am I doing wrong? And what am I doing right? And how can I be better? And how can I do better, essentially?
100%. That self-awareness and introspection is massive. A
Yeah.
massive skill to have as a trader. So that self-awareness, 100%. So, what are you guys looking at? Either you guys hopping any trades, or you guys, you both just been watching, staying patient?
So currently I'm on the sidelines. If I can share my charts here, I want to show
Yeah,
you
yeah.
what
Let
I'm
me pull
looking
it up.
at.
Yep.
So for gold, we had this, that move to the downside. I was talking about how if we could potentially see a continuation after that 1 hour candle close. But what happened here, and I kind of mentioned on how we get reversals generally at the start of that 4 hour or that 1 hour candle. So what we've seen happen on the smaller time frame here is that we had a market shift. So price was creating lower lows and pricing lower lows and lower highs. And then we came through and we broke through this area here, which now for me is indicative of a market shift. And for
Mm-hmm.
me, I would look for price to likely go back to this area that we broke through this morning. So I would want to see some type of correction,
Mm-hmm.
um, and a continuation. That's what I'll be looking for now. At first, I wanted to see a bearish reaction off of this level here, but just how the 30-minute candle had closed. So you see we had this bullish 30-minute candle, another bullish 30-minute candle, causing this this 1 hour to push up here. But the previous 1 hour candle, this was the 30-minute candle that closed bullish. And so I didn't necessarily like that in terms of, fighting. We already have a falling knife here. So selling off of this level, if we got the reaction that I wanted to, would have been ideal to break through this low. But instead, now we've gotten what I consider a change of character, a change of trend direction. And so I'll be looking to fill this gap back up to the upside. So I just have to be patient on it. This is the 15-minute time frame, so it might take some time here to give me the correction that I'm looking for. But in terms of the dollar, it confluences with this dollar setup that I'm looking at here. If you take a look on the 5-minute time frame for the dollar, we just broke through this key structural level. So we had that strong bullish move from the dollar. We've seen EUR USD have that sell move from the to the downside following the news that we seen last night. We had that strong move to the downside, and the dollar works inversely. So we've seen a strong push to the upside here. And if we dial down to the smaller time frame, we got this smaller time frame shift. When we broke through these lows, we retested, and it's seeing a continuation. So I'm anticipating the dollar to continue pricing lower and lower here, which will be in correspondence to this gold moving higher for me to retest this level. So that's kind of how I use my confluences there, and that's what I'll be, looking for. I didn't actively take a trade, but this will be the next position for me.
Yeah, that's good. That's good patience. So on the so for an entry, right? So like you said, a shift in market structure. So right, we gave a lower high, but then we just broke that lower high and we made a higher high, right? So you're looking for now a higher low. In terms of entry, do you use like something like a specific like buy setup? Will you just buy if the price comes back to that area, or what?
Yeah, so I definitely have a specific buy setup here. So if for me, it depends, right? So generally, if we have like a shallow break, something like this, a shallow break here, this was a time of high volume. But generally, when we have shallow breaks like this, we'll see a steeper correction into a supplier demand zone. And so for me, it's two separate entry locations. So my first entry location would be here, which for me would be a retest entry. So how the retest entry will work is I would need to see a smaller time frame shift once we come into this level, because essentially price is in a bullish trend on the smaller time frame here. If we take a look on like let's say like the 1 minute, because this is probably the only time frame you can see it, you can see that we're in this bullish wave creating higher highs and higher lows, right? So when price starts to come to the downside to retest the area that I'm looking for, in order to do that, it's going to have to start creating lower lows and lower highs here, right? So excuse me. So when price taps into this level on the smaller time frame, I want to see a shift at this area and then a correction back down to retest this level, but not break the low, because this now becomes my key low. Because if price is going to continue going up, this low should not get broken, and we should see this move continue to the upside, and I'll target a larger time frame area of interest. So specifically for this move on the smaller time frame, if we got a shift in this area, I would look after the shift for the bullish engulfing at the demand zone. Now, if we don't get a shift in this area and price pushes through this area here on the 15-minute time frame, when we got if and when we get a bullish candle to close tapping into this demand zone here, I'll look to go long and just fill this gap to the upside. So and how I'll go about my entry is just setting the stops below the candle that forms the bullish engulfing, once we, or not necessarily a bullish engulfing, but the bullish candle. And generally it falls in line with the larger time frame technicals. So we'll see a 1 hour candle close bullish like this, and then the next 1 hour candle to form some type of bottom wick. Since this candle closed with so much volume, I would be more inclined to looking at this retest play and the continuation of the volume from there, rather than price to pull all the way back to this demand zone and continue. But it all depends on that structure shift. So have to be very, very patient for me to take an entry or want to take an entry on this, because I'm not looking to just take any trade. You know what I'm saying? I'm very particular about the entry and the trade. So that's how I would go about that essentially.
No, I think it's a good explanation, and I think it's cool. I think we actually trade. I think we probably use a little bit of different terminology to like explain it, but I think we trade in a very similar manner.
Yeah.
Like the way you scale down to a smaller time frame to kind of like, because like everyone always says like, oh, top down analysis, and how you use those time frames together in conjunction with each other. And to me, like what you just explained is what I would consider like my multi time frame analysis, right? Where
Yeah.
yes, you want the market to be in an uptrend, but in order to see that pullback, like the 1 minute is currently in an uptrend, but you need the 1 minute to flip into a downtrend to then come
Yeah.
back to your area and then start to see that shift on the smaller time frame again to where, okay, now the 1 minute's starting to shift to an uptrend, which I think is going to lead the 5 minute to continue, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think
110%.
you and I probably talk about things and explain them a little bit differently, but like what we're looking for seems to be very similar in that sense, which I think is cool.
And I think that comes down to a lot of what any strategy, we all see these same exact charts in these same markets. So how we go about identifying it, some might call it smart money concept, some might call it supply and demand, support and resistance, whatever you want to call it is whatever you want to call it. But we're all looking at the same candles closing, the same candles flipping. And so it really comes down to just the structure, And so I think that it definitely is very, very similar, even though the terminology that we use may be different. It's the same, the same thing.
Shout out Samuel. Samuel Smith's in the chat. I think he's going to be hosting with us occasionally as well. So I think he'll be on. He just said he did some gold longs as well. So he's seems like he's watching something similar to Kyron.
Yeah.
He
said he
got
got
tomorrow.
Longs after the 30-minute bearish engulfing. So I think off of maybe this candle here is where he looked to take some longs. Samuel, where's your take profit? Where'd you set take profit? I'm interested. What you're kind of seeing there. Sam, I like your trades. I see some of your trades from when we first started, the sessions, and it was crazy. You took like a gold buy, I think, a while back. That was literally I think it was in this. Where is it? I'm not sure. I'm on a smaller time frame to see which market it was, but it was some area of interest.
One over two, which some of us did too. Right?
Yeah, somebody else really. Yeah, I had yeah. So it was like after I looked at his trade, I was like, oh man, these are all my areas of interest. So around 259.7, 26.97. So 26.97.
Damn, check.
Yeah. 26.97. Yeah. So that's a great area. The previous lower high on the 15 or on the 5 minute, was it 15 minute?
So 26.97, he's saying?
97. So yeah, around this general area where we started to have that previous resistance. I think that's a great area to target. That's what I'm essentially looking at there too.
What time frame are you on there? 5? Okay.
1 to 2.5 risk to reward. So generally, do you guys focus on your risk to reward? Is it more so structural based, or do you close a trade? I know, Tyler, you kind of explained how you go about it. So I know yours is more so structural based and where price is priced in at. I know a lot of people sometimes take profits strictly at a 1 to 2, and that's just what they want for the day. And that just be what it is. So how do you go about that? Me personally, I just trade structure. So wherever my areas of interest are at on the larger time frame, that's where I look to take profits at.
Yeah, I trade the structure as well, based off of my hourly levels, right? Those are always like my targets, but typically speaking, I'm aiming for north of like 1 to 4R for the most part.
Got you.
But yeah, I'm normally looking at a pretty high risk to reward ratio.
Yeah, I like the 1, 2 for sure. Usually 1, 3, 1, 4, but I find on my trades for it to go all the way to a 1 to 4, I'm usually waiting for an invalidation to.
Yeah, Kratos in the chat. I talked about Tom Hugard's best loser wins earlier, and he argues against risk to reward, the whole risk to reward argument. And his theory is like all you can control as a trader is the risk. You'll never know what the reward really will be, right? And because the way that he trades is he takes what the market will give him, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I do that, and I kind of do that in a sense as well. Like I said, I like to add to my winners. I like to see what the market will give me, but I will then make those adjustments, like Kyron said, based off of market structure.
Yeah, I think that's good. If you don't mind, I want to mention something here. So if we take a look for what would invalidate this trade for me personally. So like we just got this larger time frame or this 15-minute time frame shift, right? So if price pushes through this level here, that to me is indicative that price wants to continue pushing down because we are coming off a lot of volume from the previous 4-hour candle, right? So it could be that price fills this 4-hour candle wick, this current candle that we're seeing just be a 4-hour candle top wick, and that continuation to the downside. I always work in if then. So my first setup would be, we're in this shift, we've gotten the shift, we have the gap to the upside, a correction down, entry off of the bullish candle signal, and a move to the upside. If we fail to get that signal, then this means that we're now in a continuation for this current 4-hour candle. This will likely be the top wick. We could potentially see some type of another correction and a continuation. So how I would go about that is whatever the low is that's created after we get that, if and when we get that correction, is where I'll look to target for my profit target. And then I'll look to take an entry within the demand zone, which would be created now, hypothetically, if we push through this level here in the next, however long. And that'll just be kind of like a continuation play of the current volume from the current daily. And it might be something that flows into the next daily potentially. We're at an area of interest where we can see that flip. So I'm not saying that it will flip from this area. I'm just saying that if in fact we do see a continuation, that's how I'm going to go about that. But yeah.
Nice. There will be no spin today. What do you mean by that, YouTube channel buyer? No spin today. Indexes are all getting a little bounce. US 30 and NAS 100 are both above their New York opening print still. SPX is still below its New York opening print, but it is bouncing off of an hourly level. Interesting. I don't know. One thing I mentioned before was after this big gap up that we had, that I wouldn't be surprised today if we saw some consolidation, some digestion of that move, right? An NQ or NAS 100 that's basically what it's done for me, right? It's put in a pretty decently sized range, right? We opened and moved 595 to 700. So yeah, we're NQ, or I'm sorry, I keep saying NQ because I'm used to looking at the futures chart, but NAS 100 is basically traded in a 100-point range, right? We pushed up 100 points, pulled back 100 points, pushed up 100 points, pulled back 80 points. So we'll see. We did put in a decent 5-minute higher low. So now let's go see if we want to put it in a new high. I'm not in any trade, but the market structure still is in place for a little bit higher, in my opinion, if the market wants to do it, if it wants to stay strong.
I'm not executing a trade. I'm just letting this thing ride out. The whole day feels news to me, but absorbing it, learning it.
Yeah, so we can see what I'm kind of just referring to here.
Yeah, do you guys ever see the psychological key levels at times? It's I look for those sometimes. You have to really know you have to really understand an asset to be able to spot that.
Yeah, I will occasionally when I'm trading futures, but I always watch and make the decisions based off of the futures charts. And the reason that is because futures have a centralized exchange, the CME, right? So every futures broker, the chart has the same price. So to me, those like round numbers or psychological numbers, right? So like whatever, 20,000 or 20,100 or 20,500. Those round numbers that people call psychological numbers. I will factor those in occasionally when I'm trading futures. But I don't, like, if I'm looking at like NAS 100, I'm not looking at the round number on NAS because in Forex, each broker has different prices. So like one round number on one broker is going to be different on another. So I don't think it has a whole lot of validity, in my opinion. That would be the way that I look at that.
Sorry about that. I was just
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah, it's like when you're hosting the stream and talking, it can be like right. Sometimes you got to focus on the chart too. So if you ever got to lock in for a second, like we get it, right? You're here to trade too, right? Not just talk. So I don't think there's any giveaways today. Definitely stay tuned. Obviously, this is just our first stream, but stay tuned. I'm sure we're going to be doing giveaways. I'm sure we're going to be doing flash sales and that kind of thing at some point. Nothing planned for today as far as I know. If anything changes, I'll let you guys know. We're probably going to be on for the next 15 minutes, 30 minutes, depending on how these guys are feeling.
yeah. That sounds good. I'm definitely interested in these gold markets here. The next, I want to say 30 or so minutes would be around what I would expect an entry.
Sarky, I hope I'm saying that right in the chat. We appreciate your feedback. That's awesome. That's that's what we want to do. So, what you guys ask? Yes, Kratos. Any giveaway to Kratos? Yeah, we got to get Kratos in as a mod. he's vibing with everybody in the chat. I like the dinosaur emoji, Knox. No, I don't think I've ever seen that emoji before.
If you can guess my password, you can have my challenge, my account.
Okay,
No,
I'm gonna go.
Guess that password.
Brian M1 exclamation point. That's what I'm going with.
Ah! Well, how'd you know?
To talk kind of about hey, that's funny. What Sarky was saying, that's the whole purpose of these live streams, to hop on here, to be able to talk the charts, to have a community where you don't feel like you got to trade by yourself, where you can ask questions that you probably couldn't normally get answered. And even just for me personally in my journey, like watching live traders trade live and execute the markets, just so much value in there that I wouldn't have had. Like I wouldn't have been able to read price action as well as I can had I not attended these lives that I was in at the time. So I think that it's definitely invaluable, and for bits and pieces, whatever piece resonates with you, that you was able to take and learn from this, that's what this is all about. We want to get 1% better every single day. And so even by just showing up to the stream, you show and prove to yourself that you want to be better, you want to do better. Like otherwise you wouldn't be here, And so I think that this will be a great thing that will continue to grow. And in the future we could say that this would be some huge thing. The chat will be bigger, and we'll do a lot of fun things. But I'm excited. This is, just like he said, the first stream, and so you being able to get that type of value from this stream and being the first stream, that's really important to me. I feel like that's, and all of us here, I believe that it's real important.
And we're mixing the first stream with a large global event that just happened in the U.S.
Yeah, I know. What a day!
That's a good thing, right?
Like we're getting this massive move, and she's like,
So go off what Kyron said. As time goes on, we're going to see the market settle out. It'll balance itself out by later today, probably at least by tomorrow. Enough for probably my setups. I haven't even showed my chart today. My chart, I don't have any markups right now. It looks like you guys is when you bring up gold. I have basic support and resistance built in there. But what you said there, we're here to mix trading insights with casual chats and use interactive elements like our screens. All is to make this stream both educational and entertaining. And we asked for feedback. We want it to grow.
Yeah,
it'll be fun.
I agree. And this has been a great experience, a great learning and growing experience. So I hope everybody is able to, even if you tuned into the stream, you were able to get something of value in some way, shape, or form from this. That's what it's all about. So we're coming into this area of interest for gold. Now is to see how we react in this area.
Yeah, I'll throw your screen back up. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if NAS 100 continues to kind of range in this 100-point range. So I'm going to stay hands off. I think I caught my win for the day, like I said. But here, Kyron, I'll put you up.
Guys, I'm going to adjust one of my monitors real fast. I'm just going to close my cam. Just give me a second. I'll still be on here. I'm just going to stop my cam for a moment.
No worries, no worries. So yeah, I think it's like you said, it could just range out for the rest of the day. And if that's the case, that is what it is. I definitely missed the first initial entry. I would have loved to this area. So what I would be getting is a continuation or a flip currently is what I'm looking for let's say this bullish candle to close bullish and then the next candle to continue. And then we would likely see the volume play out during the Asian session, which is looking like it'll be a larger time frame hold. But I just want to see that gap get filled if we have this this smaller time frame confirmation in this area. So for me, it's just kind of waiting how we react off of this level once we tap into it. I definitely would have to wait for at least this current 15-minute candle to close. The next 15-minute candle would have to close bullish. So it would be another at least 20 or so minutes before we would be looking to take any type of entry, if that, today. But you got a good trade today, Tyler. Can you break down, just go through one more time what the trade is that you took, how you managed the position and everything? I would love to see that again. I think that was a beautiful trade.
For sure, man. Let me see if I can use the arrows like you had. I've never used those before. Wait,
these are my solid tools. This is my set of tools that I use.
Oh man, you might have to share that with me. No worries though. I'll throw my screen back on here. But yeah, so like I mentioned this morning, coming into the market today, on some trading NAS, the market had made a strong move up overnight. So clearly we are in an uptrend, right? No matter really what time frame you look at, very strong uptrend coming into the market. The NAS got a strong push, and US 30 was strong out of the gate as well. And then got this pullback where we spiked underneath this hourly level and the opening print. But if you look on the 2-minute chart, which is a chart that I watch, we got this, what I consider to be like a failure pattern. So, right, we got this, the market open. Let's see, this is 9:30. So this is our opening 2-minute candle, which was put in kind of like a 2-minute doji. And then this strong push higher, which then the pullback across the board on the markets. And we started consolidating underneath my levels, underneath the opening print, the New York opening print, and underneath my hourly level, right? So we were testing lower, we're consolidating, we rejected the level, we're consolidating. And you could consider this to be like a 2-minute sell, right? Where we tried to go higher in the 2-minute, it failed. And then we were trying to go lower and we kind of consolidated here. We eventually tried to break lower, but it failed. So this was kind of what I would consider to be a 2-minute failed sell setup where we tried to reject underneath. We tried to make new lows, but we failed. So as we wicked and broke above this candle here was my first. I was kind of anticipating this. I think I took a little bit of an early entry, kind of anticipating this break because my first entry was right below this opening print. So I think it might have been like this candle. I might even be able to see. Let's see on my entry.
And that comes with the experience.
Yeah, for sure. Just kind of anticipating a little bit. So this would have been this trade 9. It's got my times all messed up because it's got me at 9 down here and it's got me at 7. So this would be 9. The first NAS trade 9:58.
Yeah, that I've had trouble navigating the different times, going back trying to look at to review trades myself.
So the first NAS buy was 41. Okay, so that was would that be? That's not
right. Yeah, navigating that is definitely
Sorry, I'm just looking at this here.
Oh, you're good. You're good. I appreciate that, Kratos. Kratos said it really helps to take some time off the charts and listen to experienced traders like you guys and take notes. It's always a pleasure to be here. Thank you for your kind work, FunderPro team. We appreciate you, man. This is for people like you. You know, they come in here and you want to learn and you want to grow. We all want to be, you know, successful in this industry. And there's not very many platforms where you can, you know, build, you can have a community. You know, you can't just go outside and find a trader walking down the street. So we're trying to build that community here to where you feel, you know, like this is a good place to be, is where you can learn, is where you can, you know, grow. That's the kind of environment we're trying to build here. As Tyler
100%.
gets
So I'm
his
sorry. Here's what
no, you're good,
I
you're good, you're good.
I was looking at my trade from yesterday. I'm like, this time does not make sense. Like, what is happening? So I was looking at the fifth. So here we go with the sixth. So this was the SPX trade, which was my first trade that I ended up getting stopped out on. So then the buy was at 53. So 53 would be this 2-minute candle was where I took my initial entry, and my stop was below this low. So it was a pretty tight stop. I took 0.04 NAS here, and then we kind of consolidated. Still got this move up, and when the 2-minute pulled back to my levels, spiked below and started to wick, I took a second entry on my long. So I added 0.2, and you can see the second buy was at 1706. So 06 would have been, yep, right on that 2-minute candle right there as it wicked back
Yeah.
up, kind of just anticipating a break above. And then I kind of scaled out of this trade where my first trim came on this 2-minute pop here. And then I trimmed the remainder on this pop here. And then I got stopped on my runners on this pullback.
So
That's
can
a
I
good
ask you a couple questions kind of about your strategy?
Mm-hmm.
So it seems that you took your trades at when you executed kind of like at an area of interest. Do you wait for a certain confirmation, or you like taking it once it reaches a certain level? What do you found is most
So
consistent in your trading?
So yeah, I kind of like 4 things that I look for, and what I'm analyzing, which would be the trend, which the trade is a with trend. I'm going to trade with the trend. So like that checks one of my boxes that the market was in an uptrend. So I wasn't fighting the trend. And then I want to have a level as a reference point. And so my levels are either hourly levels, which are hourly changes of trend. Or the opening print. So hourly changes of trend or the opening print, which are my levels. So with trend, a level in play. I don't want to take a trade that's not near a level, which typically would be an area of interest or an area of supply and demand. They normally all kind of work out that way, right? And then I use just like candle individual analysis. So like I said, we had what to me was looking like a failure to go lower pattern. And that was just breaking that down off of just individual bar candle analysis. And then multi time frames aligning, which the higher time frames are in uptrends, the smaller time frames are in uptrends. The time frames were aligning for me. So this kind of checked all the boxes for me, where it was a solid trade setup within a
Yeah,
strong.
makes sense.
And I wish we got a little bit more continuation out of it, but I think that's probably asking a lot for the move
Yeah.
that we already got today. You know what I mean?
So
So
can I ask you another question on it? Would
Mhm.
be for a new trader who may not know why did you set your take profits the where you did, you know?
So for this, that's a good question because I normally would have my take profits at a level, like an hourly level, or
Uh-huh.
like I've talked about. But in this instance, I did not do that, right? The next hourly level I had was pretty far away. It was
Got
like
you.
a 200 point move.
Mhm.
So a really strong move after the big move pre-market. Uh, Obviously the likelihood of that happening are a little bit lower. So what you'll see as a trader, if you're a newer trader, the market will often go back to test previous highs or lows. So what I was looking at here is the market opened the New York session. We got a big push up and we put in a new high on the day, right? So
Mm.
as we had this kind of consolidation, this failure pattern that I was looking at, back above the opening print, it made sense to me that the market would go test the previous high we had, right? So it was just a matter of using the past history and that previous high that we had set today. And that's how that became my target.
Yeah, it was a beautiful trade. It was a beautiful trade. And a beautiful area to take, to start scaling back your profits. I think that's,
For sure, yeah.
definitely textbook, because that's exactly how I go about it too. So I think that was it was a beautiful execution. And you took the first L, but you also took the first
we got
double
the first
tree. You feel me? So it's always a great feeling.
Yeah. And listen, and for also too, speaking to the new traders out there, right? In retrospect, it's like, oh, well, you had that good trade. Why didn't you take the full trade off? Well, like I explained earlier, you never know exactly what's going to happen, and I know myself to know that it bothers me more when I close a trade and it runs without me than it does giving back some of my profits by getting stopped out. So mentally, I'm okay with the decision. I could have had like another $150 on the day, or $130 on the day, something like that, had I closed all at the highs. But I'm happy with it. I'm up two green days on the new 25K account, so we're up $430 and off to a good start. So
yeah, that's a great start. And honestly, with trading, it just comes down to, like, there's pros and cons to everything. So you could have taken your profits there, and if you would have taken their profits, it could have ran, well higher. And like you said, you had to decide which one bothers you more, whether it's giving back some profits to the markets, or it going without you. And you made it set up in your plan to that, I don't mind, I'm taking this little bit of a hit. You still end up net positive, and then you still have all of that upside potential at the very least. So I think that's kind of how I go about it as well. In terms of, executing in the markets. And like you said, the first dub of the account
forever in infamy, I will live as the man who caught the first win on the FunderPro stream. So when this is the biggest trading stream in the world, they're gonna have my name on it.
Number one.
Is there any assets or pairs that you're looking at, Brian? Anything in particular?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Kyron, why don't you take ownership of the chart real quick, and maybe we'll flash to my chart in a moment. But you were drawing on gold right now, or a little while ago. Good transition there to me, Kyron, because I'm watching gold real close at the moment, and I'll explain why.
Got you.
And what I was hoping was that you might provide some insight here. But if you take,
no problem.
Switch it over to go to the 5 minute, so I can I want to see where your line fell right there. Okay, so where are you at there? 26.69. Is that?
Yeah, 26.69.73. That's where this.
Okay, that's what I thought. Because if you take 26.70 as an even factor there, an even number, and you look at those two candles coming up around 9:10, 9:15 Eastern time there. They have a green candle and a bearish candle. Yeah, those two.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, that's right on your line there. And coming up, when it went past there, and it didn't break out fully about an hour ago.
Yep.
So it's coming back down, and it's retesting that area again as we speak. So what I'm looking at here is, I'm not looking at long or short. I'm looking at it telling me what it's going to do.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. Right about in here was where I would start looking for momentum to pick up. And some of the trades I was sharing with you guys, either at the end of last week or earlier this week, was very much like this setup that's happening right now. And this may be a small run that it's possibly fixing to do. It might be setting itself up to run down to 26.60 or bounce back up to 26.80. And this is an example of how I would probably be looking at, saying to myself, is this an easy, 80, 100 pip move for gold? You could and it's because of where it's at right now. It's at 2670, and it's thinking about it. It's been thinking about it for a good 2 hours now, and I feel like it's going to demonstrate a movement possibly to a 2660 or a 2680. Again, those just being even numbers, psychological numbers. That's an
Oh yeah, I like those numbers.
easy way to make a few bucks on gold. One of the traits of gold. I like to think of it like that.
Yeah. I think those are two great areas of interest. We talked about it a little bit last week when, privately, but I definitely always target those, especially when we're in these times of where, you don't have any past data for gold. Like if we zoom out here, gold was
Mhm,
at all-time highs and we were still able to trade and execute on it. And that's how
mhm.
I go about, when we're at those all-time highs, just to target those whole numbers, because you can see certain kind of rejections that we have at those solid round numbers, specifically
Yeah.
right here at the 2790 areas where we've seen this triple top
Yes.
correction format. And I think my target for gold a couple weeks back was at 2780. So yeah, 2780. And so for
Mhm,
this kind of wave to the upside was at 2780 here. And once we tapped in through 2780, 82 is where we got our initial rejection off of. But that's an area where we started to see some type of correction, some type of resistance level. It's also flipping back once we broke through this 2780. And I guess you could say more specifically, if we're looking at the chart in terms of the structure, 2776 is where we
mhm,
see that break, and then we have that increase of volume to the downside.
mhm.
So those are areas that, just whole numbers in general are areas that I like to look for
Yeah.
in terms of a target and
And
areas. So 2760 and 2780 definitely look
yeah,
like a
and I probably
good
wouldn't
area.
take if it were to engulf up, I wouldn't take it to 2680. I was thinking out loud. The trend is it's currently going down, and I would
Yeah,
be more prone to take it to 2660, possibly to
yeah,
50. But like even right now, you see that candle that's forming right now, and we're
mhm,
at on a 5 minute chart. We're about a minute and a half remaining on that candlestick. I would be I would be I'm interested to see how that finishes out. I still think it could bounce around. You have to take into consideration we're approaching New York lunch, which
yeah,
Mm.
I do firmly. Either I stop trading for the day, or I'm looking for the perfect setup at that point.
yeah.
I don't take risks. You guys had the same experience on how, especially gold, can just kind of peter out, just level out like a flat lake for an hour, right?
Yeah, and even like I found
And that's
that
the
for me
London
personally.
close. We're talking London closes in 20 minutes. So,
Yeah, so like during like I want to say the what is it? The Sydney session for me, I generally found is
mm,
just across a lot of assets because I trade the USD assets. Across all assets, it just was slow in that time. So like now is the
mhm,
time if we don't start to see some type of confirmation for me to enter now, I'll likely trade off of the next daily, but look to enter around, the Asian session, guys. I trade New York and Asian session. So if we're not getting anything, that looks remotely good in the next, 20, 30 minutes, I won't be looking to take any entries. I'll just wait
mhm,
and delay it till the Asian session because that's likely when we'll see the volume in the direction that I want. I'm definitely interested to see how this, like you said, reacts. It hasn't quite come down to my level, and this is
mhm,
something that I've had to learn the hard way in terms of patience, waiting
mhm,
for it to actually come to this level because there's lots of times where I've taken trades where it gets close to the level and I think, and then it'll go actually into the level, blow through the stop loss, and then run to my take profit. So I've had to make it a habit of being disciplined to wait for it. Because, like how you said, this area that we're at now is a key area of interest in terms of how it's going to react. It can
mhm.
push down and break through this low and push to that 2760 level, which was actually in my area of interest, and then I could look for a
It is.
smaller time frame
Yeah.
shift from there. So just being patient on it and waiting, and then however long it may take, we can't rush the markets. We got to just react off of what, you know, the markets kind of give us and what we see. So
Exactly.
I think that, you know, during the city session, definitely it starts to slow down and go. We already coming off of a lot of volume. Um, Once we get some type of correction, it'll likely take longer than this impulsive move to the downside took. And so just expecting it not to be a quick move. I'm expecting a larger time frame, you know, start correction to start. If we're going to go ahead and close bullish, we can start to potentially correct at this area of interest on, for me, on the larger time frame. So just kind of waiting it out to see how price reacts. If and when we do tap into that level, we got a huge bearish daily candle closing. So it'll be interesting for me to see how this reacts.
And I'm looking at, you know, possibly some fake breakouts, not just a simple 5-minute, you know, test, but I want to see it bounce around in there and in that 70 zone.
Yeah.
I'm watching it closely right now, and this is something I'd be looking for normally around, you know, at least 30 minutes after news and 9 a.m. in the U.S. This is just some mid morning kind of area.
So Kratos said, what could be one tip for a trader who is struggling at break even? So I guess we can all say one tip that we believe. I believe personally, and just for in my own experience, if you're at break even, for one, you're at a great spot. Like if you're at break even, you're literally 1 or 2 decisions away from being profitable. That's how I at least see it. So what I would do is to reevaluate your losers and your winners. A lot of times if you're stuck at break even, it's for a couple of different things. Either you close your winners early and you don't hold to your full take profit, causing your wins to be smaller, or let's say 1-to-1 in terms of your losses, so they're equal. And if not that, then to just take a look at your losses. Are you taking, for me personally, I was stuck at break even, but it was because I was taking trades that didn't abide by my system. And because of my journal, I was able to look like, you know, if I just didn't take this trade that was outside of my system, I would have been so much in profit. So if you're at that break even stage, that's a great spot to be in the markets. You just got to identify what it is that's either keeping you from being profitable. So take a look at your the trades that you've taken. Is it that the things that you've done right and the things that you've done wrong? Take a look at the losses, especially. If not the wins, definitely take a look at the losses. And through experience, you should know, you know, what it is that's your problem. You should have an idea, because we all know what it may be. Whether you size up too much on one position, you get a winning streak, and then one position you size up and then you lose all of your profits. That could be a thing too. So it just comes down to identifying what it is that's keeping you at this break even mark, and what it is that you can change so that you can just get past it. Because if you're at that break even market where you're, you know, you're slightly profitable, slightly in drawdown, hovering that area, you're literally, I feel like, 1 or 2 decisions away from being a profitable trader.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Well said. Knox and the chat. Unfortunately, we do not have the green light to do the spin for the giveaways today. I threw in a link in the chat. Code Risk Life will get you 15% off any account, but unfortunately, that's the best that we have for you today. I will go back to the management squad and see what I can do. We'll try to get some giveaways going. We'll try to get some flash sales going for you guys moving forward 100%. I know everybody loves those giveaways, but unfortunately no green light on that today. But I'll work on it for you. I promise I'll work on it for you. So we'll see what happens moving forward. Make sure you guys keep tuning in, because there will definitely be some at some point. It's just a matter of when. So we appreciate each and every one of you that hung out with us today. I think we're getting ready to kind of wrap it up for today, but we will be back on Friday. Unless any of you guys have any kind of closing thoughts, or anybody has any final questions.
Just if anybody has any final questions that you may have wanted to ask before, you know, we wrap it up, just so that we could touch on those points. And then I would say that I enjoyed this stream, today. I enjoyed being here with all of you guys, being able to talk the markets with somebody, because trading is lonely, man. So having people to bounce ideas off of and to talk about the markets, people who actually care about this, because you can't just go talk trading to anybody. So that's always great for me. Kratos, we appreciate you too a lot. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being active in the chat, man.
Yeah, it makes
a lot of great questions.
When you guys are active, asking questions, stuff definitely makes it fun. So,
but yeah, if there's no more questions and I have no more, ending remarks, I'm just gonna keep an eye on this goal, remain patient, and look to execute when we can.
I love it, man. I love the patience. It's awesome. Like you said, I had fun. I had a good time. It was good chatting with you guys. And we'll be back to run this all back again on Friday. So, tell your friends to come join us next time as well. We're gonna keep this rolling. So, looking forward to it. Everybody enjoy the rest of your trading day. Trade safe, and we'll see you guys in a couple of days.
Yeah, see you. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Peace out.